on Sunday ahead of some rain come Monday. Right now it's 48 degrees downtown. Inside Sources is coming up next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, Mill Creek residents are taking extra precautions after a mountain lion was spotted trying to get into a house. Mike Seralian was shocked to see the cougar prowling around his home. He estimates that it weighed around 150 pounds and it was looking for food.
It went after one of my cats. My cat ran inside the house and it chased it and then it was trying to get inside my house.
Seralian called the Division of Wildlife Resources to help. He says he now has plans to install an electric fence and is going to be extra vigilant when letting his pets outside. Kaysville is warning residents irrigation water may shut down early in August. The city says with the current conditions, you will see some grass areas and plants going brown around town as they try and conserve. The city's splash pad will also be closed this year to help with the water supply. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, the attempt on President Trump's life at the Washington Hilton last weekend has Republicans in Congress and GOP voters calling for the completion of a new and presumably more secure ballroom at the White House.
An ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll finds that before the incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, 62% of GOP voters supported the president's plan for a new White House ballroom. Afterwards, 72% were in favor. But the poll found that 56% of Americans overall opposed tearing down the East Wing to make way for a 90,000 square foot ballroom.
ABC's Jim Ryan reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 621 points at this hour. We're at 49,484. Coming up, sunny and cool today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Why'd I go to the doctor? Working on the farm, my heart kept skipping a beat. I didn't think much of it, but my daughters made me get checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Do you want to walk, play pickleball, and enjoy other fun activities to stay healthy, but you can't because of bad feet? Hi, this is Mike, and the Good Feet store wants to help.
I just had difficulty walking. I tried them on in the store, and my foot felt so much better.
Do you keep buying new shoes and inserts with little or no relief?
I tried all kinds of shoes. It was the arch supports that made the difference from the Good Feet store.
Don't let bad feet, knees, or back problems get in the way of staying healthy and having fun.
Thanks to the Good Feet store, I'm bowling 3 nights a week.
Get back to doing what you love. At the Good Feet store, we'll personally fit you at high-quality arch supports to maximize your comfort. Stop in the Good Feet store or book your free fitting at goodfeet.com. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at uccu.com. And here's Cormac Bone.
We do still see some light northbound I-15 delays in Utah County from 800 north almost to Pleasant Grove Boulevard. Those are residual after a couple of crashes, caused some pretty heavy delays. And it's slow again northbound I-15 scattered from just after Pleasant Grove Boulevard almost up to 2100 north in Lehigh. And now southbound I-15 is our heaviest delays in Salt Lake right now. It's from about Warm Springs Road all the way down to the I-82 I-201 interchange, and then it's slow again at the south interchange on southbound I-15. Eastbound on the 201 freeway, still seeing some delays from I-215's westbound to Redwood Road, and then slow from Mountain View corridor over to Bangerter Highway, and that's due to a crash that is out of traffic but blocking that right shoulder. Does your mom dream of asphalt? Well, probably not. She does dream of things done right. Whether you park it, stripe it, or pave it, GoPave's got your blacktop covered. Visit GoPaveUtah.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be sunny in the morning, highs in the 60s. Tomorrow the same, with the weekend getting warmer. Sunday night into Monday morning, we're looking at a chance of more rain. Right now it's 48 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, the House of Representatives has finally passed a multi-million-dollar framework to fund immigration enforcement. As you recall, that has been the holdup with the budget and the sort of the last remaining holdup. I think it was actually held up for quite some time. But yeah, the Department of Homeland Security did receive their funding. I'm joined this morning by not Holly Richardson, but I got Jim Bennett. Jim, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Greg.
And I am always happy to have a co-host. Holly has a child graduating from UVU today. She's been sending us pictures, and she sends our blessing. But I am happy to have you with me today, and hopefully tomorrow.
Yes, I will be here tomorrow as well.
We'll find out if you decide you want to join me again. Anyway, Homeland Security is funded, and joining us now is Deseret News congressional correspondent Cami Mondo to tell us exactly what that means. Cami, it may be a little bit of surprise this was held up. I didn't even know that they were considering this. Tell us what happened and how we got here today.
Absolutely. So last night they did pass, or at least advance, a budget resolution that will inform the instructions for their multi-billion-dollar immigration funding. They'll still have to draft that and pass it at a later time, but it does unlock the process for them to do that and to move forward with another DHS bill that would fund the rest of the department that's been shut down for about 73 days now.
Well, are the Democrats still fighting this? What are they doing, if anything?
Right now, the Democrats are fighting it. They have been voting against it, but through this reconciliation process of the budget resolution, it would be a way for them to kind of go around them and not need to rely on their votes. Of course, it did take about 5 hours for the House to pass it last night due to other internal disagreements between Republicans. But with this, it would allow them to put that other DHS bill that the Democrats do support. That bill is the one that funds everything except immigration funding. We're waiting to see when the House will put that on the floor. It could be as early as today to officially end the shutdown that is ongoing.
So we have some inclination, though, Cami, that the Republicans have the votes necessary to get this done, notwithstanding whatever's going on with Democrats right now, correct? At least in terms of the House.
Correct. They do have the votes. The question now is just a question of timing.
And what does that look like? Did you say that they'll be considering it today or shortly?
Yeah, so today is the last day that they could put it on before they leave for a week-long recess. We haven't seen a decision yet by GOP leadership to put that DHS minus immigration on the floor. Once they do, it does have the support that it needs, and it's already been passed by the Senate, so it would go straight to President Trump's desk. It's just a question of if/when they will put it on the floor today. Speaker Johnson had meetings earlier today with other Republican leaders. They didn't have a set decision yet. They said they're still talking to some members, but we could see that sometime today.
Well, what are Utah's congressional delegation saying about this?
Right, they are all in support of the two-track process that we're seeing right now. They will obviously vote in support of whatever comes to the floor. They're kind of just waiting in the wings to see what the speaker and other leaders decide to do.
Cami, Homeland Security has been without funding for, I think it's about 2 months. And maybe there may have been some money set aside, but does this bill, as what is usually the case when an agency has been without funding, provide that the back pay will be made for the people that have been working during that time, maybe without pay?
Correct. So what we did see, a few weeks ago was that issue of TSA workers and others not being paid. Since then, Trump did sign some executive orders that gave them some back pay, and they've been paid up till this point. But after this week, DHS officials say they would no longer have that money from the administration to be able to pay them, which kind of puts, this week as that deadline. So they do need to reopen the department. Otherwise, they won't be paid come next week. Regardless, though, whenever it does open, any pay that has been missing, they are legally obligated to get that back pay. So again, the timing just kind of makes it weird. But regardless, whatever pay they may be missing, they will be receiving.
Well, so how much money are we talking about here?
For the budget resolution, it's multi-billion-dollar for the immigration. But, for the DHS funding, it's basically just to reopen the department from the budget resolution that was supposed to be passed back in October.
I'm looking at an article that you wrote, it looks like this morning, Cammie, and you talk about the financial part. You said that both Judiciary and Homeland Security Committees most write legislation that allocates up to $140 billion for immigration funding, but Senate Republicans believe that number to be much lower, possibly $70 billion. I know that's not the whole picture here, but is that what the Senate is saying when it gets over there? They may bring it down to a little bit more of a under 140 billion number?
Right. Those budget instructions do set the ceiling at 140 billion, so each committee would have 70 billion to work with. That, of course, is a huge price tag. You're going to get some fiscal conservatives to kind of balk their eyes at that a little bit. And so Senate Republican leaders say they do expect the total to be around 70 billion. Of course, we won't know until the package is fully drafted. Everything that's going to be in there has not been decided. Some Republicans have different ideas of what should be funded, if they should bring in something outside of immigration funding, whether that's possible. So the final price tag is not set yet, but they do have up to $140 billion laid out in that framework.
Yeah, I'm looking at your article as well and talking about the second bill that would reopen the rest of DHS. But the thing that really kind of jumped out at me is the fact that the Secret Service is part of DHS. And in light of the recent assassination attempt, there are all kinds of calls for we need to make sure that we're beefing up security for the president, that we've had this security breach and we need to do anything about that. How is this going to impact dealing with that problem?
Right. That recent assassination attempt really did spur up some more motivation and momentum for them to actually reopen the department because of different executive orders that have paid different parts of the agency. That's why this shutdown has lasted so long. There's less of, motivation to do that. But because after today, DHS officials say they will no longer have that money, Secret Service after this week would no longer being paid. And so with that assassination attempt, that's really, spurred up talks of, we need to make sure that they do get paid. This is obviously a big deal. We need to make sure that the safety of the president and the cabinet members doesn't see any funding lapse.
Cammie, do you know what it was that brought this to the table? I know that they've been it's been unfunded for 2 months. We didn't really have any heads up that this was being considered. Not that we're entitled to that, but this sort of came out of the blue for me, at least this morning, that they advanced this budget framework. Was this something that was regular course of their business, or was this something, hey, let's get together, we think we have the votes now?
Right, and this has been something that they've been working on for weeks. As you said, they've been kind of dragging this through the mud, but I do think that assassination attempt over the weekend was something that really spurred them to action. And so I think that's especially why they decided to move so quickly on it, especially with the deadline that they are going to run out of money to pay these employees if they go past this month. So.
Do they face any obstacles after this, like in the Senate particularly, or is it going to be smooth sailing after that, after they pass it?
For the bill that funds everything except immigration, once the House passes it, that'll go directly to Trump's desk because the Senate has already passed it. For the one that is yes, correct. And then the immigration funding one, that one could see some obstacles. There are some people skeptical that they're doing enough, putting enough funding in there. That's something they'll have to hash out over the next few weeks.
All right. Cammie, thank you so much for joining us and for being on top of this at such short notice. That was Cammie Mondo with Deseret News congressional correspondent, giving us an update on what's happened there with Homeland Security. There's going to be funding, ICE, Customs, Border Patrol, TSA, other groups that are involved in that. Seemed like things are working out, which is probably good news. Well, some more good news, I think. The U.S. gross domestic product grew 2% from January through March, but the war in Iran has given us a little bit of a dim forecast for the future. We're going to give you an update on that when we come back after this.
I'm here with Monty from Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake, an authorized independent dealer. So, Monty, I wonder if you know someone like this. He's the ultimate DIY guy. Restores classic cars, builds his own deck, and even smokes his own brisket.
Sounds like a talented guy.
He is, but get this, his other weekend hobby is troubleshooting his water softener. He's always down there resetting the timer or fiddling with the circuit board.
See, Doug, that's where I draw the line. Smoking a brisket is a great weekend project.
Yeah.
Fixing an electric water softener is just a chore.
Exactly. He thinks he's saved money by buying the bargain brand, but he's paying for it with his Saturdays.
That's the Connecticut difference. Our systems are premium because they are non-electric and fully automated. No computers to fry, no timers to reset. We install it and you get back to the hobbies you actually enjoy.
If you want soft water, do what I did and leave that to Connecticut. It runs on water power, not willpower. Learn more at softwaterutah.com. That's softwaterutah.com.
Is the volatility of the stock market driving you crazy? Is your retirement account sinking, yet you're getting older and you're starting to worry about, will I have enough for retirement? What about the money in the bank? These banks pay nothing these days. How do we get growth to get to retirement account? It's simple. Move into gold and silver. Want to know how to do it? Listen to my show, Striking Gold, with me, Kenny Michaels.
Now on Saturday at 5 p.m.
Hey Utah, have you heard? Nuclear energy might be coming to our state. Now, before your brain jumps straight into sci-fi movies, let's talk about what nuclear actually does. Nuclear technology helps power our nation's submarines, supports life-saving cancer treatments, and produces reliable electricity for millions of homes. That said, nuclear power also comes with some common misconceptions. Don't worry, we get it. Here's a fun fact. You're exposed to more radiation eating bananas than you are living near a nuclear power plant. And get this, a lifetime supply of nuclear energy fits into a single soda can. Despite what some people believe, nuclear energy is safe, clean, and incredibly efficient. But don't just take my word for it. Energy decisions matter, and Utahns deserve the facts. Learn more about nuclear and what it can mean for you. Visit energy.utah.gov/nuclear.
For hearts that love. For hearts that care. For hearts that comfort. For hearts that heal. We care for them all. At Common Spirit Health, we know that each patient is unique. That's why our cardiology team is committed to caring for every kind of heart. Find heart care near you at mountain.commonspirit.org.
Gold demand is skyrocketing to record highs. As more Americans rush to preserve their savings, will there be enough gold? I'm Dr. Ron Paul, and I believe physical gold is the only way to truly protect your 401k or IRA savings. Gold offers tangible security that can't be tracked, stolen, or inflated. That's why I strongly advocate for gold IRAs. To learn more, text the word SECURE to 989898 now. Birch Gold Group will send you a free info kit on gold IRAs. Birch Gold is the only gold company I trust, and their thousands of great reviews prove I'm not alone. So don't wait another second. Protect your retirement savings today and see how easy it is to move your IRA or 401k into physical precious metals. Text SECURE to the number 989898 for your free gold IRA info kit. Again, SECURE to 989898.
Message and data rates may apply.
Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit. Make a plan. Be informed. Learn how at www.ready.gov. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Ad Council.
911, tell me exactly what happened.
My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
And I said, Josh, where are you? You need to get home.
And her husband will never be held accountable.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but
And you want to think about it for a couple of days?
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
I'm Dave Cawley, host of the podcast cold.
Then he starts making phone calls to Susan's phone.
Hello, Susan. We are on our way back.
It's the deepest of deep dives into this tragic tale of abuse.
Where was Josh when Susan disappeared?
I don't know. Of one mother's desperate attempt to escape.
This is me, covering all my bases.
Help prevent it from happening again.
Our focus has and continues to be finding Susan.
Listen and learn by following Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
Inside Sources.
Well, I think this is some good news, but the U.S. economy accelerated at the start of 2026. The gross domestic product grew 2% for the first quarter between January and March, and that was good news after the last quarter of 2025 grew at 0.5%. So it's certainly an improvement. I don't know what 2% means, but our next guest will help us with that. Americans are sort of wondering, and I think we all are wondering, how the war in Iran is going to affect these numbers. I mean, it's a tough thing. But joining us now is Robert Spandlove, senior economist for Zions Bank, to break these numbers down. Robert, thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be with you this morning.
So 2%, is that a good number, bad number, or an acceptable number?
2% is a good number.
Really?
So last quarter, so this is our first read of the first quarter. And the reason we care about GDP is it's the broadest measure of the economy. It's the value of all goods and services produced in the economy. And so it kind of tells us what our nation looks like across the board. The fourth quarter of 2025, it was at 0.5%. So we almost contracted in the fourth quarter. So kind of a reversal of that and back up to about 2%. So it is that top line reading is pretty good. Now, we've had higher numbers. Earlier last year, we had 3 or 4%. But 2% is still a pretty good number.
Well, I'm not an economist, Robert, but I do know that markets despise uncertainty. And I mean, the war in Iran is just sort of a monkey wrench being thrown into all of this. What do you think that's going to do to these numbers going forward?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you that it would have been much better if it were not for the war in Iran. So if you kind of look at the components of GDP, you've got consumer spending, you've got business spending, or we call it investment, you've got government, and then you've got net exports. Those are kind of the four parts. The most important part is consumer spending. Consumers are about 2/3 of the economy. So as long as they hold up, the economy will continue to grow. And so we saw consumer spending come in at about 1.6%. So they really benefited from the income tax reduction in the One Big Beautiful Bill, and those increases in their tax refunds was a big benefit. However, they're really suffering from the war with Iran. So that oil shock is causing major problems with oil prices. We saw that with our inflation, where we call it personal consumption expenditure. It was up 0.7% in the last month, or 3.5% over the last year. We want that to be 2%. So 3.5% is way too high. So consumers are kind of getting a benefit on one side from lower taxes, but then they're getting hit on the other side with higher prices and higher inflation.
Robert, one of the first things you said was the first read of the first quarter. Does that mean that these numbers could be adjusted? And if so, are there other factors that are still waiting to be brought into the equation before we have the final number?
Yep, they will be adjusted 2 more times. So there's 3 readings of every GDP. And I'll tell you, with the fourth quarter, by the time we got that 3rd reading, that number kept dropping. So that's one of the risks, is that, the initial number looks good, but as we get additional data, at least in recent history, we've seen those revisions going lower and lower. I'm trying to think. I think the first reading of the fourth quarter was about 3%, and then by the 3rd reading, it is down to that 0.5%. So that is one of the struggles. And if you kind of think about the momentum of the economy, the momentum is not as strong as we'd like it to be, and the momentum feels a little bit depressive right now rather than accelerative.
Well, I mean, most people aren't paying attention to any of these kinds of numbers, but is there how would these numbers affect the average American in sort of a concrete way?
Well, where it really affects the average person. So yesterday was the meeting of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is deciding what to do with the interest rates, and the interest rate that everyone cares about is mortgage rates, or getting a loan on a car, or getting a credit card. And the Fed is worried about two things. They're worried about employment and inflation. And so what we saw was the underlying economy is okay, but we're seeing that inflationary pressure. And so if inflation is too high, it tells the Fed, you need to keep interest rates higher. But then on the other side, what we saw today was unemployment insurance claims plunged last week. And that's a good thing. So we're seeing the lowest number of people filing for unemployment insurance claims since 1969. So our labor market is holding up, but we've got inflationary pressure. What that tells the Fed is you probably need to keep interest rates higher. So where that affects the average person is a lot of people may have been kind of hoping that they'd see lower interest rates going into 26. I don't see that at this point.
And we certainly didn't see it yesterday, Robert, when the Fed indicated that they were not going to change at least that rate, the Fed rate. Was that, I would think that the pressure that was being placed on them by the administration to drop it even at all would have persuaded them to do something. But did it surprise you that the Federal Reserve did not change their benchmark rate?
It didn't change me that they didn't change the rate. What you saw was you kind of saw a shot across the bow from those Fed governors. So, a lot of people just focus on the chair. And so Jerome Powell is the current chair. The next chair is going to be Kevin Warsh. And Kevin Warsh has said that he will support lowering interest rates, but he is only one vote of 12. And so it's the other Fed governors saying, hey, not so fast. Don't think that we're going to go along with lowering rates. And that was where you saw 3 of those 4 dissents was Fed governors essentially telling the new chair, you have to convince us to go along with lowering rates, and we don't see it right now.
Well, Jerome Powell has come under fire from the Trump administration because he wouldn't just arbitrarily lower rates at President Trump's insistence. And the perception, or at least my perception, is that the new guy coming in is somebody that's going to not nearly be as independent as Chairman Powell has been. Is that a concern for you, or are the checks and balances going to hold with all of these other people on the board not being willing to raise the rates or lower the rates? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's too soon to tell right now, and that is a valid concern. But that's where I really read into those 3 dissenting votes yesterday. Is the Fed is standing up and saying, hey, remember that we are an independent body. And, that was in Kevin Warsh's confirmation hearings in the Senate. He was also asked about that a lot, and he said he supports an independent Fed. But that's going to be one of the big challenges going forward, especially over the next year or two, is every politician wants lower interest rates. Every administration. This is not just a President Trump issue. Every president wants those rates lower, and that's why it's so important to have that independence of the Fed so they can base their decisions on what's right for the economy and not just what's politically expedient.
Robert, can you talk to our listeners? We've only got about a minute. This is probably a 5-minute question, but about the significance of the war in Iran as it relates to the gross domestic product, and is it the uncertainty that the war has caused, or is it the importance of oil as a commodity and affecting this, or just the Strait of Hormuz being closed off and having trade being blocked? What is it, do you think, that's causing this 2%, which is good, from not being a bigger number?
Yeah, and it really goes into, if you kind of compare business spending versus consumer spending, business investment was way up 10%. And that's the highest growth in 3 years, driven by AI investment. So we've got this strong tailwind of business investment. Corporate spending is really good. But then we've got consumer that's kind of being hit with this headwind of higher gas prices, of higher inflation. The sooner we can clear up the Strait of Hormuz, the sooner we can kind of resolve that, and we'll see gas prices go back down again. But if we get entrenched in this war, if it stretches out into many, many months, then it starts to build in beyond just that gas price shock. It starts to build into other items, other goods, other services, grocery items, and that's where that inflation can really start to cause problems with consumer spending. And so it's kind of this battle between business spending and consumer spending.
All right, that breaks it down really well. Thank you, Robert. That was Robert Spendlove, senior economist for Zions Bank, breaking that down, understanding what's going on with the economy right now, and some promising numbers, but a little bit of hesitation with some spending. We're also learning more this morning about the specific details of the alleged shooter at the White House Correspondents' Dinner Saturday. We'll break down what officials are now revealing about him and the weapons that he was using that are tied to this case when we come back.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, if you're a first-time home buyer, you might qualify for a down payment grant. KSL News Radio's Isabella Sosa reports.
The Salt Lake Board of Realtors is awarding $240,000 as part of the American Dream Grant. 4 recipients are chosen in a random drawing every other month to get $10,000 they can use towards a down payment. Applicants just need to work with a realtor who's a member of the Salt Lake Board of Realtors, be a first-time home buyer, have a credit score above 640, and a household income of $141,000 or less. Your realtor can apply on your behalf.
The deadline for the next drawing is May 19th. A family is lucky to be safe after a fire broke out in their camping trailer in Hooper. The Weber County Fire Department says one of the appliances inside failed and sparked the fire. No one was injured, but the trailer is a total loss. That's an estimated $70,000 in the hole. Our top national story this hour, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is back on Capitol Hill today. He is addressing the war in Iran and the cost to taxpayers. ABC's Martha Raddatz has more.
Tomorrow will mark the end of the 60 days that allows U.S. presidents to conduct military operations without congressional authorization or begin withdrawing them. The president must either present a case that he needs more time to withdraw U.S. forces or seek congressional approval to continue the conflict.
The Pentagon yesterday saying the cost of the war has reached $25 billion so far. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 628 points. That's 1 3/10%. We're at 49,490. Coming up, sunshine and cooler temperatures today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
You know, when I was 40 years old, I could eat anything I wanted. It didn't matter, and I would never gain weight. I really didn't lose weight either, but I didn't feel like I needed to. And that went on for years and years and years. After college, after law school, I could just eat and drink and play, whatever, and I just didn't gain weight. Suddenly I hit 60 and everything changed. I started gaining weight at a rate that I didn't understand, I didn't appreciate, and I couldn't lose it. No matter what I tried, I couldn't lose it. So I contacted SOTA, S-O-T-A, Diet Nutrition. A lot of people here at KSL had used SOTA with great results, and I thought, well, I'll try it too. I didn't want to do the pill thing. I didn't want to do injections. I wanted to see what I could do on my own with some help with diet. And SOTA lined me up with a diet program. I have a nutritionist. I have a coach. I meet with her every week, and she talks to me about what we're doing. I give her my plan. She gives me her plan. And so far, the results have been great. In fact, 16 pounds in 21 days. And I'm not where I need to be yet, but I'm really, really close and much faster than I expected. Remember, SOTA Weight Loss, SOTA, S-O-T-A, Diet and Nutrition. Join us for a short time to have results that last a lifetime.
A mother's love doesn't always look the same. It's in the woman who raised you, the one who chose you, the one who stepped in when you needed it most. It's in grandmothers, sisters, mentors, and the women who show up again and again with love, strength, and grace. This Mother's Day, Duke's Jewelers celebrates all of them. At Duke's Jewelers, they believe women who shape our lives deserve something just as meaningful as the love they give. Something timeless, personal, and filled with heart. From classic diamonds to one-of-a-kind designs, every piece is chosen to honor her story and yours. A piece she'll wear every day and think of you. Join Duke's Jewelers this Mother's Day and enjoy a complimentary rose with any jewelry purchase while supplies last. Because every kind of mom deserves to feel seen, celebrated, and loved. Visit Duke's Jewelers on Main Street in Springville and at dukesjewelers.com.
Let me ask you a question. You have a best friend? How big would it shock you if somebody told you that your best friend just killed somebody?
911, what's your emergency?
Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son, and they're demanding $500,000.
I've asked myself so many times, what in the world happened?
Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at UCCU. And here's Cormac Bone.
Well, it looks like we have either a crash or a disabled vehicle on southbound I-215's westbound approaching I-80. They are blocking that right lane, so traffic is starting to stack up in delays. It starts near 700 North now. And northbound I-15, just a little bit of slowdowns left over in Salt Lake approaching 90th South. Otherwise, though, roadways really clearing out, especially in Utah County. I-15 looks like there's no delays there after we had a string of crashes this morning. Replenish Landscape Garden Products provides the highest quality compost and soil blends for your lawns and gardens. Start your season right with Replenish. Visit replenishcompost.com. Replenish, it's good stuff. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be sunny, a high of 64, 67 tomorrow, 70s on the weekend, and Monday looks like our next chance of rain. Right now it's 52 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We're learning a lot more about the man who allegedly tried to rush the White House Correspondents' Dinner with the intent to harm the president. By the way, I'm alongside Jim Bennett this morning. Thank you for joining me today. Holly's out with the going to graduation, but Jim, when a person is taken into custody on a criminal case, before they can be charged with a case or before they can be held in jail, the police will file what's called a probable cause statement or something. It kind of explains what happened. It gives the judge a little bit of a roadmap. It's not evidence at all. It's not like witnesses testifying, but they file this thing. It's called a probable cause statement, and I'm reading it. It was just released this morning, or at least within the last day or two. But it's interesting because it's kind of a roadmap. It's kind of a story about what happened here, and they go through it. And I won't read it all because it's quite long, but they kind of give us a timeline. So on April 25th, they had this dinner, of course, but 7 weeks earlier, the man who is accused of this crime was advised. He saw that, hey, there's this. They give this notice that Trump's going to be there. In fact, Trump publicly announced that he was going to do this dinner. He announced it on Truth Social, and so shortly after that, this man Allen, his last name is Allen, I think his name is Cole Thomas Allen, makes a hotel reservation at the hotel where this is supposed to occur. He makes the reservation for the time it's going. He takes a train, and these guys, these FBI people, they're amazing. They did a very good tracking job. They found out when he got on the train, when he boarded in Los Angeles, he landed in Chicago. He was at the hotel for a couple days. He got a specific room that he requested. The dinner was scheduled to be at 8 o'clock. Trump gets there about 8 o'clock with his wife. It's in the ballroom. And then about 8:40, Allen approaches a security checkpoint. 8:40. I mean, he must have timed this pretty well. As he approaches it, according to this statement, he runs through a magnetometer, which is a cool name for a metal detector, holding what they call a long gun, which means it's not a handgun. Secret Service personnel assigned to the checkpoint heard a gunshot, and one of the Secret Service officers was shot in the chest. They just identify him by his initials, VG. He's fortunately, life-savingly, wearing a bulletproof vest at the time. I love these cop reports. They call it a ballistic vest.
A ballistic vest.
But,
cool.
And all these words. Anyway, then that same officer drew his weapon and fired multiple times at Allen, who fell to the ground. But as I understand it, he wasn't shot. He wasn't hit by the gun, but somehow while he's being shot at, he falls to the ground, which was fortunate for everyone, because once he falls to the ground, of course, everyone, the Secret Service agents tackle him. They find him in possession. They they indicated earlier, I said it was a long gun. They find him in possession of a 12-gauge pump-action shotgun and a 38 caliber pistol. Pretty dangerous weapons if you're going to rush something. And so they go through this whole thing. They find out where it was purchased, because in the federal court, if you want to charge somebody with a firearm allegation, it's helpful to show that the firearm traveled in interstate commerce, because there's no state where they make the iron ore and build the gun and do it all in the same. So everything travels in interstate commerce. And they say the gun was purchased in California from a dealer. The handgun was purchased in California. They traded him. They traced him back. And so, they traveled in interstate commerce to get to Washington, D.C. He read his Miranda rights. He invoked his rights and said he didn't want to talk. He was then taken to the hospital. And then he sent an email to, this is something that was really interesting. And I do want to read part of this. I think it's important. So it's almost like I'll just read it. A manifesto kind of thing. But at 8:40 p.m., he sent an email, which is seconds before he ran out the door, that says, apology and explanation. He sends this to his friends and family. Hello, everybody! ! So I may have given a lot of people a surprise today. So he's assuming that he sends this and then he runs so that by the time people read it, the end of the story has occurred. Let me start by apologizing to everyone I've trusted and abused, whose trust I abused, rather. I apologize to my parents for saying I had an interview without specifying it was for Most Wanted. I apologize to my colleagues and students for saying I had a personal emergency. By the time you read this, I will almost certainly do need to be in the emergency. I'll be in the ER room, but I can hardly call it not a self-inflicted status. I don't know what he means by that. I apologize to all the people I traveled next to, all the workers who handled my luggage, all the non-targeted people at the hotel who I put in danger simply by being near. I mean, this is a precursor to I'm about to do something really bad. I apologize to everyone who was abused or murdered before this, all those who suffered, blah, blah, blah. He goes on. He's just apologized. I don't expect forgiveness, but I could have seen another way to get this done. I would have taken it. Again, my sincere. And then here's what's important on why I did this. Now, again, he's writing this before he did it. I am a citizen of the United States of America. What my representatives do reflects on me. I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. And then parens, to be completely honest, I was no longer willing a long time ago, but this is really the first time I've had an opportunity to do something about it. While I'm discussing this, I'll go over my expected rules of engagement. Probably a terrible format, but I'm not military. So then he talks about military officials, not including Mr. Patel. They are targets prioritized from lowest to highest. And then he goes through the people that I guess were his targets: Secret Service, hotel security. He doesn't really want to hurt anybody there. Capitol Police, the guests of the hotel, not at all. So he starts with who's at the high list of his target. And then he says, in order to minimize casualties, I will also be using buckshot rather than slugs, because he says they won't penetrate the walls. In other words, he's using a shotgun with the shot that you would use to hunt, pheasants and ducks, instead of big slugs that they use back east to kill deer that he thinks could go through a wall and hurt somebody who's innocent. Of course, everybody's innocent in this case. I would still go through most everyone here to get to the targets if it were absolutely necessary. I chose to attend a speech by a pedophile, rapist, and traitor, and thus they are complicit, but I really hope it doesn't come to that. Then he signs it, Cold Force, friendly federal assassin Allen.
Oh, gosh.
Cold Force, friendly assassin. And anyway, so that's a pretty, in terms of if I was prosecuting this case, that's a pretty good piece of evidence that I would use to prove that he was the person and that he planned this, that this was something that was planned out. I mean, he's caught in the act, so it's not like the government has a weak case, but they released that evidence about him. I thought it was really interesting.
No, it is interesting, and he's very clear-eyed in terms of what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
But the thing that drives me crazy about this is that instantly after this happened, the rhetoric just sort of was united in terms of a couple of themes. One was build the ballroom, which strikes me as kind of bizarre. But the other is that all political violence is coming from President Trump's opponents. It's all coming from the left. And that there's absolutely, it's this monolithic kind of, the response is monolithic, and it's just so bizarre to me that the first president in the history of this country to try to violently overthrow a free and fair election is lecturing all of his opponents about political violence. I didn't vote for this guy. He doesn't represent me. The fact that I oppose President Trump politically does not mean I am in any way sympathetic to attempts to murder him. I think that the assassination of President Trump, if it were actually to happen, would be the worst possible thing politically for the Democrats, because it would turn him into a martyr.
Right.
It would just be an absolute disaster. I don't know anybody that wants that to happen. And to have something like this be held up as representative of all of President Trump's political opponents is really offensive to me.
Yeah, it's been interesting. That fallout has been interesting, and I wish I had a few more minutes to talk to you about this. I read the probable cause statement, and we went over time a little bit, but I do appreciate those comments, and I think that a lot of Americans probably share that sentiment, Jim. When we come back, prediction market Kalshi is fighting to keep their app alive in the state of Utah. We're going to talk about the latest developments on a lawsuit that has been filed when we come back.
Mother's Day is right around the corner, and J&J Garden Center in Layton has everything you need to make Mom's Day bloom. Right now, the greenhouses are full of vibrant flowers, beautiful hanging baskets, and colorful plants that make the perfect gift for Mom. Choose from stunning hanging baskets and 4.5-inch seed geraniums, both 20% off during the Mother's Day celebration at J&J Garden Center. Or brighten her garden with beautiful bedding plants that will bring color to her yard all season long. Whether Mom loves tending her garden or simply enjoys fresh flowers on the patio, you'll find something she'll love at J&J Garden Center. Stop by, explore the greenhouses, and pick out the perfect blooms to celebrate the moms in your life. Visit J&J Garden Center in Layton and make this Mother's Day one that truly blossoms. J&J Garden Center.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
If your water heater's over 10 to 15 years old, congratulations. You've beat the average. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I love hearing stories of people having water heaters that are really old and they're still doing their job. Unfortunately, most of us won't be that lucky. And when water heaters fail, it's usually in spectacularly inconvenient fashion. Whether it's an unexpected cold shower when we're already running late for work, or worse yet, coming home to a flooded basement, it's never fun. If you'd like to look into replacing your water heater before it fails, Any Hour Services is having a sale for any homeowners listening. Whether you're looking for a new tanked water heater or you want to see what upgrading to a tankless would cost, the plumbers at Any Hour Services can show you what options are available. And right now, you can save $400 on a tanked water heater or $1,200 on a tankless. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services today and schedule your free estimate. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Progressive knows life takes you in many directions.
Bear right at exit 32, then begin to wonder why you never bought a fish tank. In 1.3 miles, you'll realize you've been mispronouncing epitome your whole life. At the roundabout, you will remember you said something at dinner you wish you hadn't and will think about it for decades. You have arrived at your destination, but it turns out there really is no destination and life just keeps going.
Wherever life takes you, protect your home and auto with a bundle from Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
A multi-billion-dollar settlement is paying claims for up to 21 years. If you were exposed to weed killers at work or at home, your rights are affected. If you or your family has or had non-Hodgkin lymphoma, you could receive $6,000 to $165,000 or more. This settlement impacts you even if you're not sick, because this blood cancer can take 10 to 15 years to appear. If you stay in the settlement, you give up your right to sue. Learn more at weedkillerclass.com or call 888-403-8201. Paid for by the Roundup Settlement.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
Really ugly clouds coming over from the north.
A place
The ridgeline is imposing, the escarpments, the drops.
where survival
It's dark now. I have nothing.
is never certain.
This is not good.
My name's Dave Cawley, and I'm the host of a podcast called Uinta Triangle. It's about the disappearance of an Australian hiker named Eric.
Our conclusion and that of the sheriff is that the mountains have decided to keep him.
Come retrace Eric's footprints with me.
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
He is not the first or last person to vanish in this remote region.
It was haunting to see the photos. I mean, really.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle. That's Uinta, spelled U-I-N-T-A, Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes out now.
The new Inside Sources.
Well, the predictive markets company Kalshi has revived its request for a preliminary injunction against the state of Utah. Before we get into that, I want to ask you, Jim, have you heard much about these prediction markets?
Yeah, I mean, not specifically, but over the years, I think I've been kind of fascinated by them, particularly in politics, because they seem to be better than polls in a lot of ways.
That's the beauty of them. The downside, of course, is that they are maybe gambling, and the state of Utah has taken that position. And another downside is what happened recently with an Army soldier he was involved in the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. He's in the Army. He looks at the prediction market and it says, what are the chances that Maduro will be taken into custody by such and such a date? I forget, like May 30th or whatever the day was. And he bets $32,000, some number, and the odds are astronomical. So he's not only in the Army, but he's part of the force that went in and took Maduro and got him out. And so he wins $400,000 on this prediction market bet. Well, so what happened was the Kalshi or whatever the company was, is like, they don't like paying over big money, just like the casinos don't. If they see somebody wins huge money, they're going to say, well, was there something fishy that went on? So it wasn't the government, it wasn't the FBI, it was the prediction market company that said, hey, we just wrote this guy a check for $400,000. We think there's something fishy about him. And they start looking into his background. And he wasn't so naive as to just, say, hey, my name's John Doe. I'm in Sergeant such and such in the military, and this is what I did. He sort of hid what he did a little bit, and he actually got the money and put it in Bitcoin, but then put it back into another account. They traced it to him. They found out what he had done, and they now indicted him in federal court, which means not only does he not get the money, but he's going to prison for essentially trading on insider information. It's the same thing that people have gone to prison for in this country. So prediction markets have had their share of problems. So then, fast forward to what we've done here in Utah. Our governor and our attorney general, I don't know if you recall, they wrote a letter. Derek Brown actually wrote a letter to the Tribune that said prediction markets are straight up gambling. Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, that sounds like what they are. I mean, you bet on the outcome of something. So Utah leaders have said, we're going to go after these companies. So rather than wait until somebody goes after them, Kalshi files a lawsuit preemptively. They file a lawsuit against the state of Utah, asking a judge to decide that Utah shouldn't do what they're thinking they're going to do, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And they've asked for what's called a preliminary injunction. They're saying, okay, state of Utah, you've shown your hand. We know you're going to come after us. We're suing you on the front end to make sure you don't do that. So they filed a lawsuit against the state of Utah asking that they not do what they claim they're going to do in news reports and whatnot.
Well, I mean, so I don't understand necessarily the legal aspects of this. And I have a vague, approximate understanding of the technological aspects of this, but I don't see how this is enforceable in the sense of it's very easy. It's the easiest thing in the world to get a VPN and use this app and have the computer think that you're anywhere else in the world other than Utah. I mean, how do you keep this app out of Utah in any sort of practical way that has teeth?
So that's a good question. And so what they've done is looked at other, let's say, the betting services where you bet on sports bookings.
Yeah.
I don't know. I forget the names of them, but there's several of them. They actually have created these walls around the state of Utah, a geofence.
Oh.
So that company, knowing that they're going to be in trouble if they do that, they don't, like fanbase.com. I forget what they're called. It doesn't matter. But they can't, if you go on their website, you can't gamble in Utah. Now, I'm sure we're going to get texters who tell us, I figured out a way, go through my brother-in-law in California or whatever you want to do. I mean, there's always a way, like you're saying, Jim, to get around this. But they absolutely don't. I mean, that's same with, adult material people. They have to go through certain things if they want to, produce their product here in Utah, or at least have it available because of the state laws. So the other question, of course, is this gambling? And Utah says it is, because you're placing a bet on something for which there's an element of chance. You're putting money down for something that you could get something back. And Kalshi is saying, well, so's the stock market. Mm-hmm. So is commodities trading, and they are regulated by the Commodities Future Trading Commission, and so will we be. So we're not, you know what I mean? They're looking at it and saying, well, this is commodities trading, but there is no commodity. That's the difference.
Right. I think the main difference, because a lot of people have tried to make the argument that the stock market is equivalent to going to Las Vegas. And the difference, at least in my mind, is that in Las Vegas, or in any kind of strict game of chance, it's a zero-sum game.
Right.
And in the stock market, it absolutely is not. Everybody can win. But in order to be able to get a $400,000 payout here with Kalshi, a bunch of other folks have to lose.
Exactly.
And so I think that essentially identifies the difference between legitimate sort of investment and even speculation and outright gambling. I think that the state is absolutely right here to label this as gambling.
And I think that that's brilliant, actually, from a non-lawyer perspective, because I think you nailed it. I mean, that makes more sense than what I could have explained from the legal perspective. But that is what's going on, and I do think that the state of Utah can prevail. Now, here's another hurdle, though, Jim. The federal government has weighed in and said to the states, hands off. We are going to be the regulators of prediction markets, and we will decide what they can and can't do. And so far, the feds have given them a little bit of a green light and said, we believe that these are appropriate. They'll be governed by the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, and they'll have some level of restriction. And so to the states, sort of keep your hands off. Utah's saying, well, you can say the same thing with FanDuel. You can say the same thing with gambling. But in Utah, gambling's illegal. It's what we. You know what I mean? It's even other things like the lottery or something like that. The federal government might say lotteries are great. Utah say they're great in Nevada, but they're not great in Utah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a state and federal argument here too where the Kalshi people are saying, well, you don't get to override federal law, but Utah's saying, in Utah we can put up that fence.
Sure, but it almost seems quaint to me that even the federal government thinks that they have the ability to control this, when this is a sort of decentralized kind of thing where they can go offshore, and a VPN allows you to set your computer. I'm not saying anything that isn't really common knowledge, but it's the easiest thing in the world, and a lot of people do this anyway just to protect their privacy.
Sure.
You set your IP address to a server somewhere, anywhere in the world.
Oh.
So it doesn't matter where you are in the United States. If Kalshi decides, okay, we're just gonna set this up offshore, somebody sets up a VPN, and it's so easy to get around this. It's not just, okay, yeah, people can get around this. There was a time when that was a difficult process. Now it's something you can do in 10 seconds. So I look at all of this and I go, it feels performative to me. It feels like, okay, we're angry, we don't want this to happen, but I have yet to see any sort of solution to this that would genuinely prevent it from happening.
Even in Utah. Do you think that, so I'm interested, do you think the same would apply to gambling, online gambling operations?
It does apply to online gambling operations.
So Utahns could folks.
We're
certainly not giving people advice here.
No,
but
I'm not trying. I'm not advising anybody to break the law or anybody to do any of that.
Obviously, right.
The
but
idea
it's possible to do that.
Using a VPN is entirely legal to hide your IP address, and a lot of people do that because they want to protect their privacy.
Sure.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing illegal or unethical about that. But it also permits you to do illegal and unethical things.
Right.
And there really is no way to trace it. There's no way to come after it. And I don't know. I'm not. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of technological whiz that's going to come after me and tell me all the different ways that could happen.
Right.
But in general, I just look at things like this and I go, we are entering a new world that nobody understands.
Yeah, interesting.
So,
well, you always wrap up the segments with something brilliant that I wish we had more time for. We'll be back with some more news about some exciting primaries coming up in Utah. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, the development at the point of the mountain where the prison used to be has been discussed for years, and construction of Phase 1 should soon be visible. Draper Mayor Troy Walker says he expects to see an apartment complex, a 5,000-seat concert venue, as well as a state-owned building which will house tech developments.
The next thing that'll come in is the River to Range Trail, which is a trail that connects the Jordan River Trail with the Port of Rockwell Trail across the freeway. So there's a brand new approved front runner site that's going to hit the edge of the point on the Bluffdale side. That's underway as well. So a lot of exciting things happening.
Walker says in a later phase, 50 acres will be designated for homes that will be sold. Previously, all housing was going to be rentals or leased. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, the weekly unemployment numbers are out.
The peak in weekly initial filings for unemployment benefits came at the height of the pandemic, when 6 million applications were submitted. By November of 2021, a recovery was underway, but weekly claims have remained above 200,000 for nearly 4 years. With companies focused on retaining employees rather than laying them off, the figure plummeted last week to 189,000.
Jim Ryan reporting. Your money at this moment, let's see where the Dow is now. We're up 731 points this morning. That's 1.5%. We're at 49,593. Coming up, beautiful weather today before the weekend warm-up. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Progressive's Accident Response can detect and send help when you need it most after a major car accident. But other accidents, you're on your own. Like when you accidentally call your wife Mom. When you accidentally say Happy Holidays on someone's birthday. When you accidentally wave at someone you thought was waving at you. We can't help with those accidents, but Progressive's Accident Response provides peace of mind after major car accidents. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Limited availability in California. Driver is responsible for emergency and towing charges not covered by the policy.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Every day here in Utah, people turn to KSL News Radio for one simple reason: trust. Trust for our reporters, hosts, our coverage, and trust in the businesses heard right here. I've met so many of our listeners over the years, and they'll tell you KSL is part of their daily routine, in the car, at work, at home. And when they hear your business here, it carries the weight of that trust. It isn't just another ad. It's a recommendation coming from a reliable source. When you advertise on KSL News Radio, you reach a loyal, highly engaged audience who listens intentionally. They show up for breaking news, accurate information, and meaningful conversations. And because of that connection, they respond. And when you pair our on-air credibility with digital tools like display advertising, social media, streaming audio, search, geo-targeting, and retargeting, you get a full funnel strategy that works and reaches the right people at the right time. Get marketing that truly moves the needle. Partner with the voice Utah trusts. KSL. Learn more at kslnewsradio.com/advertise.
Attention, RV owners or RV wannabe owners. It's the used RV blowout sale. RVs from all over the Intermountain West have been sent to the Layton Hills Mall for this RV liquidation event. Repos, buybacks, rental returns, and trade-ins. Blowout pricing. Every RV has been inspected and serviced and ready to go. Free admission, free parking. Dealers welcome. It's the used RV blowout sale. This Wednesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to dusk. Go to UtahRVEvent.com. Sponsored by Paris RV. Paris RV is your locally owned, family-run RV dealership. We strive hard to find the very best RVs for the price. With 4 locations, over 1,000 RVs in stock, 42 service bays, and 4 super parts stores. We're sure to help take your family on the best RV vacation. Check out our perfect family bunkhouse trailer, the 26BH. That sleeps 9 for $19,995 or $227 a month. Zero down. Life is short. Enjoy it. North Murray, South Murray, Payson, and Pocatello. ParisRV.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big. UCCU, love where you bang. And here's Cormac Bone.
Well, we got some heavy southbound I-15 delays in Salt Lake County, first approaching 4500 south and then again at the south interchange. Now, this is due to a couple of things. First, there were a couple of crashes there blocking shoulders, and then UDOT did a controlled slowdown, both for emergency road maintenance on bridges in the area and due to those crashes as well. And it's just a touch slow on northbound I-15 right after the south interchange as well. And we do have a crash. This is on Bangerter Highway in West Jordan. It's at the off-ramp northbound Bangerter Highway to 7800 West. They are out of traffic in that right shoulder, but just be careful as you get off of Bangerter there in West Jordan. I'm Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
We will be in the mid-60s today, and then we have a weekend warm-up with temperatures getting into the mid to upper 70s Saturday and Sunday before some rain moves in on Monday. Right now, it's 52 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
I'm alongside Jim Bennett today, and Jim, we're talking about the recent conventions that occurred last weekend. Holly went to the Republican convention down at Utah Valley University. I went to the Democratic convention, which was at Jordan High School. Packed crowds at both events, and we came out with our candidates, or at least our national and statewide candidates that will be on the primary ballot this June. And of course, for our listeners' benefit, there are 2 ways to get on the primary ballot. One is the signature gathering process, which I think a lot of people don't understand. And the other is the convention process, which in my adult lifetime has been the typical route that people have gone. Of course, signatures started several years ago, and they've been interesting because as conventions have developed, and this is not a slight to the Republicans or the Democrats, the people that go to the conventions sometimes don't represent the rank and file of the party, or at least the sort of the moderates. And of course, I was a delegate, so maybe I'm as much to blame as anybody. But you see the delegates at these conventions, and they're the more rah-rah, the more left-leaning Democrats and the more right-leaning Republicans. And so I think in response to that and other things, we've also allowed another avenue, another road to get people on the primary ballot rather than just relying on what happens at the convention.
No, that's true, and I actually consider that to be one of the great legacies of my own father. I ran my father's final campaign when he ran
Senator Bob
Bennett, and he at the time he had a 70% approval rating among Republicans, and yet he went into the convention and lost in convention. Because that was, I don't know if people remember the Tea Party movement,
right?
But there was a really motivated core group of people who were more extreme than the party at large, who were very motivated to get rid of Bob Bennett. And after Dad lost, that's when Count My Vote sort of sprung into action and tried to get a ballot initiative to eliminate the convention route and just go straight to primaries and have nothing but signature gathering. And so legislature.
I didn't realize that was an initial proposal.
That was the initial proposal. The initial proposal, there was going to be a ballot initiative to eliminate the convention system entirely. We're kind of a dinosaur in terms of how we do that kind of thing. There aren't other states that do that. There may be a couple of others. I don't know. Somebody's going to yell at me for that. But overall, most states rely on a primary rather than on the convention system. And the legislature, in looking at that, got scared and said, okay, let's have a compromise. And they passed SB 54, which creates the two different routes to the ballot, which is the convention system and the signature gathering. Right. And the Republican Party almost bankrupted itself, the state Republican Party, in lawsuits trying to fight SB 54 in court over and over and over again, and they lost, and they spent millions upon millions of dollars to be able to do that. And there are still a number of candidates that consider the signature gathering route illegitimate, one of them being Phil Lyman, although I think maybe he even gathers signatures this time around.
Right.
But his big deal when he kept saying that Governor Cox is an illegitimate, whatever, is because, well, I won in convention. Well, great, you won in convention. He gathered signatures. Both are entirely legal, and you have to recognize that that's how it works.
So they must be hearkening back to the Constitution, which says nothing about signature gathering, and maybe I probably don't say anything about conventions either. But there must be something in Utah's history or constitutional law or something that gives some precedence to the convention, and maybe people felt like the signature gathering wasn't authorized. Of course, I think the courts have largely now. In fact, there was a case just recently where somebody said they sued because they were 3 signatures short.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court said, the law is the law. We're going to support it. So the signature gathering seems to be a rock part of Utah law now.
It continues to be challenged. There are a number of people, particularly Republicans, who continue to go after it. So I don't know how secure it is. I think it's fairly secure, but political sentiment changes the same way the wind blows. So we'll see what happens.
What I thought was interesting, Jim, is that we did, for example, the Democrats. I went to their convention, and the only race that was really particularly interesting. I mean, they were all interesting. The congressional district, there are 4. We had candidates in each one, but in CD1, the district that Democrats have a shot of winning, there were 5 or 6 candidates that came out and spoke and did the whole rah-rah thing. Well, 4 of them had gathered signatures before the convention. And so, to me, it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to be on the primary ballot. Now, they still showed up at the convention. They still did the rah-rah thing, which, I don't know, maybe you feel like you sort of have to. But they didn't care, except just for pride, I guess, what happened at the convention. They were going to be on the primary ballot anyway. And I don't know, to me, it took a little bit of the wind out of the sails, although I'm a huge fan of signature gathering, don't get me wrong, just because I've seen what happens at these conventions. But it did make it seem like, why are we here? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and there are some candidates that have essentially bypassed convention. I know that when John Curtis was in the House of Representatives, he always came in fairly low in convention and didn't particularly care. He didn't completely bypass the convention, but essentially ignored it. He realized he was going to lose in convention, and he realized that had no bearing on whether or not he could actually win the election.
Yeah, I'm looking at one race in particular that sort of spells this out as well as any, and that is Congressional District 2, which is my district. Blake Moore is our current congressional representative, and he was challenged at convention by Carrie Ann Lisenby. By no means a newcomer. I mean, people know who she is and know her history, and she's very well known. At convention, she gets 61.5%, which means it's over. She's on the ballot, and She doesn't have an opponent at the primary. But he hedged his bets, and he got signatures. Otherwise, he'd be done. He'd be going home right now. You know what I mean? It didn't. I don't see that it would have applied to any other race. Well, except the people in the Democrats, of course. 2 of them wouldn't have been there. But and Blake Moore's by all accounts, I mean, he's my congressman. He's done a pretty good job. I don't know Carrie Ann Lisenby. Maybe she'll do an even better job. But I'm just saying that that was a challenge I didn't expect. The intra-party challenges in the Republican Party were a little bit unexpected to me because you'd think they were doing a pretty good job.
Well, Blake Moore came under fire because a lot of Republicans didn't see him as sufficiently upset about the Proposition 4 issue.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where you're seeing that kind of a protest vote in the Carrie Ann Lisenby results. But I don't see that playing out in a general primary among more moderate Republicans who are going to vote.
You don't think the numbers will be
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm not following that closely enough, but really the convention results are almost always more conservative or more extreme, if you will, than the general population and the general voting population.
And Prop 4 was a big thing at the convention
this
year.
Absolutely it was.
It really was. Well, and it probably will continue to be. So is Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. He's back on Capitol Hill today. Lawmakers continue to grill him about the war in Iran. We're going to find out more about that when we come back.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Do you spend half your day walking or standing while working? If you have foot, knee, or back problems, the Good Feet store wants to help you like we helped Tony.
Pain that I experience the most is foot pain from being on my feet all day. You're having to kind of talk to yourself through the whole shift, like, I got this, I can do this. Before, I felt defeated, and now it's like, all right, let's go. I'm ready. A whole new life, like sunshine coming on.
And how about working more comfortably, like Dennis?
Working at an amusement park, it's always on your feet. I just couldn't take it, but I didn't have a choice. I just couldn't believe that putting these arch supports in made that much of a difference that quickly. I could do my job and I could take care of my family. I know what my tomorrow is going to be. It's going to be positive.
You deserve a better life too. Stop in the Good Feet store today. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
A family office is a team built to handle the three biggest financial responsibilities a family faces: wealth management, tax strategy, and estate planning. Most firms only manage your investments and refer the rest out, hoping everyone stays aligned. At Trajan, we built something different. Your wealth, tax planning, and estate planning are handled together inside one firm under one roof. There's no guessing whether your CPA, advisor, and estate attorney are truly in sync, because our team works together every day on your behalf. When your financial life becomes more complex, your advice should become more coordinated, not more fragmented. One plan, one trusted team. Call Trajan today, 855-TRAJAN-1. That's 855-TRAJAN-1.
Trajan Wealth, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Additional services through Trajan Estate and Trajan Tax. Additional disclosures and accreditation at TrajanWealth.com.
Right now, water heaters are on sale at Any Hour Services. Schedule a free estimate today to see how much you'll save. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a gripping new 9-part investigative podcast about a serial killer you've probably never heard of, Warren Forrest, a sadistic predator who prowled the Pacific Northwest in the early 70s. He hid behind the deeds of Ted Bundy, and he's only been convicted of 2 murders, but is suspected of many more. Since the release of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a witness identified in the podcast could lead investigators to the remains of Jamie Grissom.
He ran into the woods. He said he stumbled. As he fell down, he looks up and sees the body of a young woman.
And now the FBI is testing forensic evidence that had been collecting dust for decades. This cold case is now red hot. Binge the entire season of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley right now, wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest breaking news.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section and after Dad's back injury. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Trouble with opioids can start at home with unused medicines such as pills, patches, and syrups. You can remove the risk and protect your family. Find out how at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
If you're struggling with your mortgage, there's a free government program that offers expert one-on-one advice about your mortgage options. Call 1-888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
Inside Sources.
Yesterday, while we were doing the show, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was on Capitol Hill talking to members of Congress about the war in Iran. They got kind of strained, and there were a lot of tensions going on there. We're going to join that live right now.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. Really do appreciate your time to be with us. Before I begin some of my questions, I do want to start with something personal, and both to you, Secretary Hegseth, and to the chairman. I want to thank you both for the time that you take to recognize our fallen and those that have given, of course, during this administration, given their all. You have traveled to Dover and have been there to greet those families and to welcome home the fallen. I've been there with you, and Iowa has been hit in particular very hard. We lost 2 of our Iowa National Guardsmen from the 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 34th Infantry Division. Secretary Hegseth, you know full well the 34th. But we also lost 6 members from the 103rd Sustainment Command Expeditionary based out of Des Moines, Iowa during this current conflict. And again, your presence there meant a lot to the families. It also meant a lot to me. So thank you very much for taking the time to do that. Secretary Hegseth, you and I have had many discussions over the course of many months now regarding general officer positions. And, you know, I believe that we were operating in good faith as we talked through a couple of those in particular, 2 Iowans, General Mingus and General Randy George. I was disappointed to see that their retirements were hastened over what I believed had been set out by you and the administration. So I just
we're listening to a question by Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa. We'll get Hegseth's response here in just a second.
Staff. He pulled the Army out of its worst recruiting crisis since the Vietnam era, exceeding fiscal year 2024 recruiting goals and welcoming more than 61,000 new soldiers. Recruitment numbers that both you and the president talk a lot about, and rightfully so. He cut 5% of general officer positions, 12 positions that were deemed as non-essential in the Army, and he reduced the Army headquarters by 1,000 personnel. He co-authored the Army Transformation Initiative, which is a comprehensive response aligned with your directives, and he testified here in front of Congress and took a lot of heat defending that Army transformation. He was suddenly let go at the beginning of April 2026. General George's merits, which I firmly believe in, he enlisted at the age of 17. He is a West Point graduate. He had 4 combat deployments. He served in Desert Storm, Iraq, and Afghanistan. He had 38 years of honorable service. He achieved the greatest Army recruitment and modernization effort in a generation. So I want to thank him for his service. And I would like to enter into the record, Mr. Chair, the speeches that I did honoring General Randy A. George on his retirement and General James J. Mingus on his retirement as well.
Without objection, they'll be admitted.
Thank you very much. I'd like to talk a little bit about the audit, Mr. Secretary. I saw the video that you posted this week calling on the department to pass a clean audit, and thank you for doing that. It's something that we talked about during your confirmation hearing. Fiscal responsibility at the department has been a priority of mine for a very long time, and I think it's time that we build on that momentum. It's extremely important. And that's why I'm pushing for my Receipts Act in this year's NDAA. It's focused on improving financial traceability and accountability across the department. And if you could talk a little bit more about the efforts in making sure that we are being much more accountable to our taxpayers. What is that effort going to entail? When will we see a clean audit?
As I said, Senator, thank you for your work on the audit. That has been a priority of our department from day one. And we put in place goals and benchmarks to get to FY28, get to 28 for a clean audit. The Joint Task Force audit, which we announced, was a reflection of even more capabilities we want to push forward and centralize authority to make sure it happens. Jay's been involved from the beginning. We also have a new IG. Who the new IG's focus, one of his focus points is precisely this, and he's prepared to work with us to ensure we reach it. So I think at every level and through this budget, it's a focus.
Okay, thank you. We look forward to seeing a clean audit. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Ernst. Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin my questions, I'd like to take a moment to highlight the true costs of this war, both for the military and everyday Americans. And the true cost of the president's illegal war with Iran. And since the start of the war, 14 brave U.S. service members have been killed and more than 400 have been wounded. We've burned through over $25 billion in taxpayer money with no end in sight. And the fiscal year 27 budget request is a massive 42% increase from last year. Hundreds of critical munitions have been expended, and deployments have been extended, directly impacting service members' quality of life, military readiness, and our ability to deter our adversaries. The relationships with our allies, some of our closest allies and partners, have been fractured. And the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which somehow caught the president by surprise, even though he had to have been warned, is directly contributing to the affordable crisis that Americans are facing. Energy costs are skyrocketing with the price of gas now at its highest level in almost 4 years. Instability has driven interest rates to its highest level since September of last year. The cost of fertilizer is spiking, which will have a direct impact on the cost of food. This illegal war is driving up costs.
We're listening to Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono.
With neither a clear rationale for starting this war nor an exit strategy. And when the president was asked how long he'll let this war continue, he said, "Do not rush me." I have a question for General Kane relating to women serving in combat. And I'd like to hear your best military advice. Does the mere fact of women being in combat armed units lower standards or readiness if they meet the physical standards?
Well, ma'am, the standards are set by the civilians. We have examples of women leading well across the joint force. I'll highlight some of our current commanders engaged in the fight in Epic Fury. Specifically, one of our bomb squadrons are led by an extraordinary female leader who's doing great work. And but those standards are set by. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you.
I think your answer is that in fact it does not lower standards of readiness. Second question, should every service member, regardless of gender, be permitted to serve in any role, including the combat arms, if they meet the standards established? Yes or no?
Is that to me, ma'am?
Over the last decade, since combat arms have been open to women, have you personally seen any instance where the standard resulted in a degradation in combat effectiveness?
Apologies, I didn't hear your first question. The people policies are all set by the civilian leaders in the government. Could you repeat the question again? I'm sorry, ma'am.
Over the last decade, since combat arms have been open to women. Have you personally seen any instance where the standard resulted in a degradation in combat effectiveness?
Again, I'll highlight that the standards are set by our civilian leaders. Women continue to perform well across a range of MOSs and jobs and AFSCs that are out there.
No. I do need to get to a question for Secretary Higseth. Prior to your nomination hearing, you said women shouldn't serve in combat armed units. At your confirmation hearing, you reversed course, and you basically said as long as the women meet the standards, they should be able to serve. But recently, you ordered a review of the effectiveness of women in combat roles, and I am concerned you are laying the groundwork to reverse the policy allowing women to serve in these units, because right now, current law, if you want to change this policy, current law requires you to submit a report to Congress justifying such a change. So did you order the review to support a potential decision to overturn the policy of having women in combat roles?
We are laser focused on standards. The highest male standard for every combat arms position should be the standard. And 10 years into this, we are reviewing it, which is what the American people would expect. Also, there's nothing illegal about a war that defends the American people and prevents Iran from having a nuclear bomb.
You didn't answer the question, because the reason that you're asking for this review, I think, has to do with your earlier position that you don't think women should serve in combat roles. So now we have this study.
Let's take a break from this. It seems like the questions are going much, much longer than the answers. So we've only heard maybe one or two answers. When we come back after the break, we may come back to this if we get to some of the more meaty, important parts of it. But otherwise, I want to talk about a vote by the House to renew FISA, F-I-S-A, which allows the United States to spy on foreigners located abroad. We'll talk about what that means and how it applies to the Fourth Amendment when we come back.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, Mill Creek residents are taking extra precautions after a mountain lion was spotted trying to get into a house. Mike Seralian was shocked to see the cougar prowling around his home. He estimates that it weighed around 150 pounds and was looking for food.
It went after one of my cats. My cat ran inside the house, and it chased it, and then it was trying to get inside my house.
Seralian called the Division of Wildlife Resources to help. He says he now has plans to install an electric fence and is going to be extra vigilant when letting his pets outside. The U.S. House voted to extend the life of a key government surveillance tool, but not all of Utah's representatives were on board. FISA allows our intelligence agencies to monitor the communication of potential threats outside the U.S. without a warrant. Utah Congressmembers Blake Moore, Burgess Owens, and Celeste Malloy all voted in favor of extending the program, but Congressman Mike Kennedy voted against it. Republicans say in its current form, the bill will not pass the Senate. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, no relief at the gas pump, with prices nationwide hitting their highest level in years.
I think it's killing me.
The thing I don't understand is how come it rises like 30 cents every time.
Having to choose between gas and food, and that's a very hard decision.
The AAA says the average cost for a gallon of regular gas in Utah this morning is $4.36 a gallon. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 735 points now. We're at 49,597. Coming up, nice weather and then a warm up on the weekend. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
I had a guy walk into my office the other day. He's a client I've known for probably 20 years, and we were walking and talking a little bit. And as I started walking away, he said, "Greg, have you lost weight?" And I'll have to say, that was the music to my ears. It was so nice that someone said that, because lately I've had some people saying, "Greg, your pants look a little tight." And this time it was just the opposite. It was very, very, very happy to hear that. I have been on a diet. I started with soda about 3 weeks ago. I've lost 16 pounds in 21 days. I did my 3-week checkup yesterday, and I was so pleased at those results. I'm not quite where I need to be yet, but if people are noticing, I'm happy. I went on the diet because I didn't want to take pills. I didn't want to take injections. I didn't want to do the latest fad. I wanted to do it based solely on my workout routine, my nutritionist, and what I do. And they said you could lose 3 to 5 pounds a week. I've lost, 16 pounds in 3 weeks. So a little bit ahead of the curve, but I'm hoping to continue that to get to my goal. And I'm over halfway there after just 3 weeks. I contacted SOTA, S-O-T-A, Diet Nutrition at sotadietnutrition.com, got lined up with a coach, got lined up with a nutritionist, and learned what I could to change my habits. I've even got my wife on board, although she was already didn't need to lose any weight, but she's been great because the food is great, and it hasn't changed our lifestyle much at all, just what we eat and when we eat and how we eat. sotadietnutrition.com. Join us for a short time to have results that last a lifetime.
Spring cleaning isn't just for your house, it's for your life. If your job is getting old, it's time to clear the clutter and spring into IT. Go to My Computer Career.
My Computer Career helped me get the skills and certifications I needed to start a new life as an IT professional in months, not years.
Earn the certifications the top employers are looking for right now. Visit mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation to see if it's time to spring into IT. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
Get a $15 O'Reilly gift card after rebate when you buy 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Support comes from Amazon Business. Free your team from time-consuming procurement tasks. Discover smart business buying where unmatched selection meets AI-driven tools to simplify complex processes so you can focus on what matters most. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com.
It's spring. You get outside and it's obvious your house needs painting. Make an appointment with CertaPro Painters. They'll give you a free estimate quickly and at the right price. And they make the entire process easy with reliable updates and communication. They know how important your home is to you. True professionals, they're committed to quality and exceptional service at the right price. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated, so schedule your free estimate online at CertaPro.com. That's Certa with a C.
Traffic and weather together is brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. And back to you, Cormac.
We do have a crash on southbound Legacy Highway in Centerville just after the merge with the West Davis Highway. Looks like they're out of traffic and in the right shoulder. There's some light delays as you pass 400 north. And in Salt Lake County, we got some southbound I-15 delays at Warm Springs Road. I watched some of those lanes come to a stop. So I imagine there's a crash. Maybe it was debris on the road. So it's just slow right now, right at Warm Springs Road. It looks like those delays have already eased out quite a bit. So looks like your roadways will look pretty good for the rest of the midday drive. With nutrients blended for greener, healthier turf in our local soil, IFA's 4+ Lawn Care program is the ultimate lawn owner power move. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
We should see a high of 64 today, 67 tomorrow, and then we're back in the 70s for the weekend. Chance of a shower coming on Monday. Right now it's 52 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to pass a key government surveillance tool, but Utah's representatives split their votes. Here's more on that.
Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA for short. It allows federal intelligence agencies to monitor what targets outside of the U.S. say without a warrant. Utah Congress members Blake Moore, Burgess Owens, and Celeste Malloy all voted in favor of extending FISA for another 3 years, but Congressman Mike Kennedy voted against it. The Deseret News reports FISA allows us to track potential threats from terrorists and spies, and proponents say allowing it to go dark could deal a major blow to our national intelligence. However, some want to make big changes to the program before extending it, and that might need to happen for it to move forward because Senate Republicans at this point are calling the bill dead on arrival. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Is this something, FISA, Jim, that you were aware of before today?
I've been aware of it, and I'm aware of a lot of the concern around it, and I think a lot of it is overblown. But I think when you're dealing with international threats and international difficulties, there are going to be things that are going to make people uncomfortable. I don't really know where the line is as to how much is appropriate in terms of that surveillance and how much is not.
Yeah, so one thing I don't understand necessarily about it is So under our current law in the United States, because of the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution, the government, when they want to seize something or search something, and a search can include surveillance, they normally have to get a warrant based on probable cause. They normally have to get approval by a judge or a magistrate, we call them, and say, hey, I want to, like if they were going to tap your phone, you and I are having some drug cartel conversation, and they want to
don't
listen.
talk about those on the air.
Okay.
Come on.
So they couldn't just listen in. They would have to go get a warrant approved by a judge. It's not hard to do, and we do it all the time. But the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, allows warrantless spy powers. And so I haven't got to the end of my question yet, which what I don't understand is, as easy as it is, and I was a prosecutor and I worked with law enforcement, I probably drafted 200 warrants. As easy as it is to get a warrant, I don't know why we would allow this to occur without a warrant. Although, when you consider, I'm talking out of both sides here, when you consider the Fourth Amendment, it does, in the Constitution as a whole, the Bill of Rights applies to people here. It doesn't apply to somebody in Turkey that's planning something. So on the one hand, the government, it's an easy burden for them to get a warrant. On the other hand, the person on the other end doesn't really have a right to complain about the fact that they were the victim of an unlawful, or warrantless, I should say, search. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think this is particularly timely when the Trump administration particularly is trying to say that if you are an undocumented immigrant, that you don't have constitutional rights. And so, we've seen that in terms of them deporting people without any due process whatsoever. I think that's slowed down because a bunch of judges have intervened in that. So, but to me, I don't understand enough about this to be able to draw a clear line as to say what's appropriate and what is not. When you're dealing with things that are happening overseas and you're dealing with developing plots and time is of the essence, but except for, of course, current law allows for, if there's sort of a probable cause, that you can bypass a warrant that way too. So I mean, I don't feel strongly enough one way or the other on this to weigh in on one side or the other.
Yeah, and I think that's why the vote here was kind of iffy. I mean, it was 235 to 191, and there were some Democrats that voted for it and some Republicans that voted against it, even though it was largely along party lines otherwise. And we're talking about what they call Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which does allow warrantless searches of overseas targets, and it has a sunset clause. That is, it has to be renewed every 18 months. So it's not something that just stays. And that's why it was voted on, because their first 18 months had wrapped up. And we saw that 2024, when it was first voted on 18 months ago, 147 Democrats voted to renew it. This year, only 42 did. So some have become skeptical. And last time when it was voted, 88 Republicans voted against it. This time, only 22 did. So it's become a much more partisan issue than it was in the past, whereas before it seemed to have bipartisan support. And so they voted to extend it for now 36 months, it seems like, because on the one hand it says 18-month extension, and then on the other hand it says 36 months. But at any rate, it is going forward. Now, okay, so this is in effect, and it allows this search. What would happen, Jim, to challenge what's going on here is, say some foreign national did get, he was being surveilled, and he or she was being targeted, and they were brought back to the United States to face charges or something like that. Could they challenge this? Could they say, hey, this was a warrantless surveillance, this was warrantless? Or could, under some sort of UN charter, find it to be against our, the spying, I don't know, I'm sort of surprised.
Against international law.
Right, international law, that you can't do that. And so, again, there's a lot going on right now, and I think our administration and our Justice Department are concerned about foreign spying and foreign intelligence and things, and maybe they felt like this was something that needed to go forward. It still has to clear the Senate, and they've got some problems with it too. Not necessarily with the language of it, but just sort of it's always the nuances. The devil's always in the details, so we don't know what's going to happen in the Senate. But right now, the House did approve warrantless spy powers, we're calling them.
Well, I really like the fact that it comes up for review every 18 months.
Yeah, it is one of those things. You're right, Jim. That makes a lot of sense that let's review this. That's the same thing we did with that temporary protected status for the people that are here from other countries. It was a 18-month review. We talked about Somalis and Haitians yesterday, that they could be in the country under a protected status, but because of what's going on in their country may be dangerous, but every 18 months we'll review that and decide whether or not they still need to have that protected status. So laws like that do make a lot of sense because they can be reviewed periodically, and then we're not changing the law or having to overturn it or override it, but just review it. So it does make a lot of sense. That was a little bit deep into the weeds, but sometimes I like to talk about the legal stuff, the Fourth Amendment stuff, and I guess maybe in this case the Fourth Amendment doesn't necessarily apply.
Well, as the lawyer in the room, what is your answer to your question as to whether or not the Fourth Amendment would apply to somebody that is brought to the United States and saying I was illegally surveilled?
My guess is it doesn't, because they're not here. I think the Fourth Amendment stays on the borders. Now, I'll probably get some texts that say I'm wrong, but I don't think the U.S. constitutional law applies in a situation like this. Although, on the other hand, why would they have warrants if they didn't have something like that? So, again, my guess is that it doesn't necessarily apply in the same way. That they may not have that same expectation of privacy. Well, this is another one I want to talk to you about. It's a legal issue, but it involves former FBI Chief James Comey. He's been indicted again, this time for threatening the president over an Instagram post that I want to get your take on when we come back.
And I have a take on that.
Usually when something sounds way too good to be true, it is. Imagine someone saying you can cut your mobile bill in half. Sounds like a fantasy, but with Xfinity Mobile, it's the real deal. Because when you have Xfinity Internet, you can cut your mobile bill in half, plus try Xfinity Mobile free for a year. No commitment. That's a lot of streaming, sharing, scrolling, whatever else you can do with your phone, all for half the price and none of the commitment. That means you'll save big over Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. Wild. Now all you have to do is think about how you'll spend all that extra money. Call 1-800-XFINITY, go to xfinitymobile.com, or visit your local Xfinity store to switch today. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Savings compare one line of Xfinity Mobile Select to comparable plans from T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T as of 3/24/26. Taxes, fees, extra. $30 monthly discount limited to new mobile customers only after 12 months. Regular rates apply. Go to xfinitymobile.com.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
Did you know Utah State University is home to one of the nation's leading centers for disability research and advocacy? At the Institute for Disability Research, Policy, and Practice, we work side by side with Utahns with disabilities, their families, and community partners to make our state more accessible and inclusive for everyone. Our researchers, educators, and advocates partner with family service providers and policymakers to create real, lasting change. We believe that everyone deserves a chance to live, learn, work, and play in our communities. From helping children reach their potential in early intervention programs, to building accessible technologies, to improving mental health and employment supports, our work touches every corner of the state. The Institute for Disability Research, Policy, and Practice is the only disability-focused research center in the state of Utah. That means we're Utah's home for innovation, data-driven policy, and community solutions that make life better for people with disabilities. Find us at idrpp.usu.edu.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house, whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. and you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
911, tell me exactly what happened.
My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
I said, Josh, where are you? You need to get home.
And her husband will never be held accountable.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah,
but and you want to think about it for a couple of days?
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
I'm Dave Cawley, host of the podcast Cold.
Then he starts making phone calls to Susan's phone.
Hello, Susan. We are on our way back.
It's the deepest of deep dives into this tragic tale of abuse.
Where was Josh when Susan disappeared?
I don't know. Of one mother's desperate attempt to escape.
This is me, covering all my bases.
Help prevent it from happening again.
Our focus has and continues to be finding Susan.
Listen and learn by following Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Well, former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted again, and this time, Jim, it's for alleged threats to the president. What happened here is he posted an Instagram post, and I don't do Instagram, so I don't know what that looks like, but I guess you just post something on your website. And he shared a photo of some seashells that were in the shape of 86 and 47, a term that the Department of Justice could say could be misinterpreted as a credible threat. So 86, when somebody's 86th, we have different definitions for what that means, but to me it means usually you get fired from your job, you get 86th. And 47 refers to the 47th President of the United States, I guess, and saying, well, we should get rid of Donald Trump.
Well, 86 actually began as restaurant slang.
Oh, really?
It rhymes with Nick's. Nick's the ham sandwich. We're out of ham, so 86 the ham sandwich from the menu. That's how it initially came into common parlance, and for most people it means get rid of. I think the most reasonable interpretation of that would be James Comey would like to see Donald Trump removed from office. The idea that it's James Comey wants to see Donald Trump murdered and is calling for that murder is just really an asinine interpretation of it.
Yeah, so I thought the same thing when I saw that. I'm looking at the indictment. It's actually 2 counts. He's charged with willfully making a threat to take the life of and inflict serious bodily injury on the President of the United States, and that he also is charged with consciously disregarding a substantial risk that his communication will be viewed as threatening violence, and he knowingly transmitted a communication that contained a threat to injure or kill another person. I mean, look, they say you can indict a ham sandwich, and he has been indicted on these charges too. These would be serious charges for taking a picture of 8647. It is unfortunate that he did it, given everything else that was going on with Comey at the time. I mean, we call it felony dumb, I guess, but
felony dumb.
I don't think in a million years, and there may be more to the case than we know about, that a jury would find him guilty. I don't even know it'll get that far. This might be like the last indictment where some judge says, time out, I'm not going to let this go forward.
Well, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I can't imagine this not being laughed out of court instantly, because I don't think it's enough to be able. So I play around on what's now called X. I still call it Twitter. But yesterday I posted, it is not illegal to want the president to die. It is not even illegal to publicly say you want the president to die. What is illegal is speaking in a way that credibly poses a threat to the president's safety. Posting 8647 is not that. And right now, as of this reading, that has 384,000 views, 1.3 thousand reposts, and 25,000 likes. But I'm also getting all of these the most recent comment that just came up, you are mentally ill, seek help, you weirdo. And,
that's why I don't go on X.
That's why you don't go on
X. Account, right.
But tell me if I'm wrong on this legally, but don't you have to, for this to be a credible threat, don't you have to draw a line from the seashell post to an actual demonstration that there is now more of a threat to the president's safety than there would have been had Comey not posted the seashells?
I think so, and I think that's an absolute defense, and it will be. Now, the Justice Department is alluding, Jim, to the fact that there's more to this, which I find a little bit hard to believe, only in the sense that if there was, they would disclose it. I mean, they disclosed this, the seashell design. So I don't know what else they have. The acting attorney general, Todd Blanche, says threatening the life of the president of the United States is a grave violation of our nation's laws. The grand jury returned an indictment. So it's easy for prosecutors to say, hey, I just ran it by a grand jury and they returned the indictment. I know that they made the decision. And I see that happen a lot, unfortunately. And he says the temperature needs to be turned down. Anyone who dials it up and threatens the life of a president will be held accountable. And then Kash Patel weighed in as well. James Comey disgracefully encouraged a threat on President Trump's life and posted it on Instagram for the world to see. As the former director of the FBI, he knew full well the attention and consequences of making such a post, and we're going to pursue this vigorously. So I think what they're saying is that because of the source, that in fact it came from the former FBI director, that it was different than it came from Jim Bennett.
Well, and I mean, if there's any merit to anything, there's merit to that point. I mean, James Comey, I think this was probably a dumb thing for him to have done. That still doesn't change the fact that you can't draw that line between the seashells and an actual credible threat to the President of the United States. And when you talk about the idea that, okay, well, there's more to this that we just don't know, when you seek an indictment, do you lead with your weakest argument?
No, you're right. You're right. If they had something more, you'd expect them to have submitted that by now. By the way, if he's convicted, he faces up to 10 years in prison for this.
Yeah, I just don't think he's all that unsettled by it.
So the thing about they say you can indict a ham sandwich, and I know that's hard to comprehend, even for me. I didn't get it at first. But what they're really saying is that it's really easy to get an indictment. Now, we have seen in this very case with Comey and Letitia James, the grand jury is saying, get out of here. They're not going to give an indictment because it's real easy. Like when we go to the preliminary hearings in the state court, which is the state sort of way of getting a case to trial, you have a judge, you have defense attorney, you have cross-examination, you put on your evidence, and the state puts on probable cause to show that a crime was committed. It's an evidentiary. It looks like a trial. It's a mini trial. In the federal system, and in some states, they have what they call a grand jury system. And I've been to grand juries, and I've testified before grand juries. There's no judge there to weigh the evidence. There's no defense attorney there to object to the evidence. And the grand jury is there at the will of the prosecution, and they don't need unanimous verdict beyond a reasonable doubt. And so the prosecutor, his or herself, directs all the questioning. They can ask the witness what they want, and they can have information that is what we call exculpatory. In other words, it shoots a hole in their case, and they don't have to present that to the grand jury. They can just present what they want. And if they present their case and the grand jury goes, we think there's something here, they can vote for an indictment, which means the individual who's indicted, they don't get a preliminary hearing. They don't get to question the witnesses. They don't get to do anything. They go straight to trial. Now, Comey's not going to go straight to trial. I'm sure his attorneys are going to file some motions, and not the least of which is the vagueness of this. Is this really a threat? And I think, Jim, there's probably a First Amendment argument, like some of the statements that you were talking about earlier. Hey, did you wish something that I wished he wasn't around or something like that? 86, I've never thought someone being 86 means murdered. I've just never equated that. And nothing about you ever surprises me, but you knew what 86 came from. Nix the ham sandwich.
Nix the ham sandwich.
86.
Well, yeah, it's also, I think, exculpatory for Comey that the minute somebody told him that this could be interpreted as murder, that he took the post down. So that these seashells were up for about a half hour. And when when he realized that there might be another implication to that, he's like, oh, that's not at all what I meant, and let me take it down. Now, if this had actually posed a threat to the president, I'm not sure that would be a defense, but I just think that's just a huge hill to climb to try to be able to prove that this really represented any kind of a threat, that Comey intended any kind of a threat. It's just absolute nonsense.
Here's another thing, Jim, and we've only got about a minute left, but it's not the first time I've seen 8647. I mean, it seems like people have posted that before. I don't remember the context, but I've seen it.
There's this Jack Proso. I can't pronounce. I don't know what his name is, but he's this huge MAGA influencer, and he regularly posted 8646 during the Biden administration. This was kind of a mantra for a lot of these MAGA folks, and now they get James Comey saying this, and it's the worst thing in the world, and President Trump's life is in danger.
So I didn't realize that. That I think makes a huge difference that it's been that they did the same thing with Biden as the 46th president. So yeah, interesting. Well, we'll follow that case as time goes on. My guess is that will never go to trial, but what do I know? I've only been an attorney for 44 years. I still have a lot to learn. When we come back, this is an interesting poll by Deseret News and the Hinckley Institute, but a lot of Americans say they no longer feel represented by either the Democrats or the Republican parties, and Utahns feel more strongly about that than Americans do nationally. We'll talk about these poll numbers when we come back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. If you're a first-time home buyer, you might qualify for a down payment grant. KSL News Radio's Isabella Sosa reports.
The Salt Lake Board of Realtors is awarding $240,000 as part of the American Dream Grant. 4 recipients are chosen in a random drawing every other month to get $10,000 they can use towards a down payment. Applicants just need to work with a realtor who's a member of the Salt Lake Board of Realtors, be a first-time home buyer, have a credit score above 640, and a household income of $141,000 or less. Your realtor can apply on your behalf.
The deadline for the next drawing is May 19th. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is back on Capitol Hill today answering questions before a Senate committee. During the hearing, Hegseth said the U.S. military tried to move personnel out of harm's way before the war began.
I think what people mostly don't know is that a massive effort was undertaken before this conflict to move as many humans off of targets to other places and maintain operational security about where they might be to minimize the space with which Iran could hit. We always knew something getting through was a tragic possibility.
13 U.S. service members have died in the war and more than 360 have been hurt. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 681 points. The S&P is up 35 points. And coming up, rising temperatures. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 11:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. So you're invited to visit the movie show Friday 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime.
Our entry-level data plans start at just $20 a month. And for a limited time, switch and get your second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com or a store near you and get your second month free today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional details.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
Really ugly clouds coming over from the north.
A place
The ridgeline is imposing, the escarpments, the drops.
where survival
It's dark now. I have nothing.
is never certain.
This is not good.
My name's Dave Cawley, and I'm the host of a podcast called Uinta Triangle. It's about the disappearance of an Australian hiker named Eric.
Our conclusion and that of the sheriff is that the mountains have decided to keep him.
Come retrace Eric's footprints with me.
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
He is not the first or last person to vanish in this remote region.
It was haunting to see the photos. I mean, really.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle. That's Uinta, spelled U-I-N-T-A, Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes out now.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the Nines, brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at UCCU. Here's Ricky Meese.
Back to a nice and quiet drive on all the Valley freeways. Good speeds, no problems. And your main secondaries also look good. Even the downtown city streets pretty quiet at this time. While you're planning your day, plan for comfort too with the Good Feet store. Find the location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 64 today with partly cloudy skies. We'll see 70s this weekend and into next week. Right now it is 55 and fair. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
I'm happy to be joined in studio this morning by Jim Bennett. Holly is with a child who is graduating. I guess a child is not the right word. Graduating from college. At my age, everybody that's under 40 is a child. But at any rate, good for Holly. And actually, Holly's speaking at UVU tomorrow, doing a convocation. So it's good for her. People don't call me for those kind of things, but
me neither.
But I'm interested in this poll that came out, Jim, and I was going to get your take on it. Brigham Tomko from the Deseret News, who's going to join us in just a moment, published an article about a poll that was conducted by the Hinckley Institute and the Deseret News involving how Utahns feel about whether or not they're being correctly or appropriately represented by the Republican Democratic parties. And I don't know if it's surprising or not, but 6 out of 10 Utah voters feel that they are not represented by the Republican Democratic parties. And it also finds that 4 in 10 voters in the United States and in Utah would like to see a third political party. And I want to get your take on that in just a minute. But let's bring Brigham in. Brigham, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me to talk about this poll.
So talk about the poll in general and tell us how it was set up and what the questions were.
Sure. So we polled over 2,000 U.S. voters from around the country and then over 800 voters just here in Utah. And we saw lots of consistency between those two different groups. But where Utah stood out is that a greater number of people felt that neither major political party represented them. And so we asked all these respondents whether they felt like they were well represented by the two major political parties, Democratic and Republican. And the answers ranged from very well, somewhat well, not well, or not at all. And so what we saw is that a majority of voters around the country felt like the two major political parties did not represent them well. And then that was even greater here in Utah, where it almost reached 6 out of 10 folks, 6 out of 10 people. And we also asked voters, whether this kind of dissatisfaction with the major political parties impacted their involvement with political parties. So we asked them whether they were involved in primary elections, donating to candidates, and if they weren't involved at all, which about 3 in 10 voters said they weren't involved in politics at all, we asked them why, and they gave their reasons for why they were politically disengaged.
Well, so Brigham, I ran as the first candidate for the United Utah Party in 2017, and we had all kinds of research that showed the same sorts of things even back then. And everybody says we want a third party. But when push comes to shove, we were polling and somebody in the Libertarian Party said to me, hey, take your final poll number and then cut it in half because when people get behind the voting booth, they are far less willing to actually put their money where their mouth is and vote for a third party, even though they say that they want a third party. That turned out to be true. I got 9.4% of the vote in that race, which was a record for a third-party congressional candidate at the time. But our polls had me closer to 20%. So what do we do when people say, okay, yeah, this is what we want, but they're not really willing to do anything about it?
Yeah, you see this clearly across lots of surveys where even those people who identify as political independents, they will almost always vote one party. And there's so many different factors that contribute to this. I think that political parties just have a very tribal or cultural, strength to them in our psychology, where depending on how you were raised or where you live, you just are more affiliated with one party or the other. And so what I think that this poll does is it signals that people are dissatisfied with the national political environment and the way the parties are behaving. I think what these people would really want in an ideal world is for the parties to behave in a better way. And when I talk to some of these sources, some of these politically homeless individuals, one in Missouri, a couple here in Utah, they said that what they want actually is for the two parties to at least make a show of working together and working in a way that signals actual problem solving and not just partisan messaging. So I think they're trying to send a signal to the political parties to grow up.
You talked about one of the questions that you asked, Brigham, and I was really interested in this. When you asked people if they feel that their major parties represent them, 6 in 10 Utahns said no, but nationally that number was 5 in 10. I mean, that makes you feel like Utahns are less happy with their political party representation than nationally, which to me, Brigham, and maybe this is a rhetorical question, was surprising. I would have expected Utahns to feel more, I guess just because I just came out of the convention, we were all rah-rahing, that we felt more comfortable with our political parties. But it surprised me a little bit that Utahns were less satisfied than the rest of the nation.
Yeah, Hinckley Institute Director Jason Perry had a couple of interpretations of that disparity between U.S. voters overall and Utah voters in particular. And, two of the things he pointed out is that it seems like maybe for cultural or even some religious reasons potentially, it seems like Latter-day Saints often value or elevate certain issues even above their political identity. And so it could be that in this case, their dissatisfaction about how parties are treating certain issues or even how they're talking and the tone that they're using in their politics, maybe that is even more important to them than their partisan identity. But another thing he pointed out is that in a state like Utah, where there is a heavy Republican supermajority, it's possible that not just Democrats, but even Republicans within that majority who may not align with the leadership feel like their voices aren't being heard. And it's possible that in a state with a more even electoral split, that people would feel like both of their parties were fighting for their values as opposed to kind of just falling under this broader supermajority umbrella. So that was the interpretation of one Utah political observer.
Well, how much does tribalism play a role in this? Because so many people that are frustrated with their party or frustrated with thinking they're not representing them also are down sort of to their core. Their identity is in many ways defined by their party affiliation. And I sort of stumbled into that when I withdrew from the Republican Party, where I had spent a great deal of time actually making a living as a somewhat Republican hack, but being able to look at it from the outside and realize just how much that tribalism is shaping all of this. Do you think, what kind of role do you think that plays in all of this?
I think it plays a huge role. When you look at polling in terms of approval rating or favorability of party standard bearers like President Donald Trump or others, sometimes you will see hesitancy or dissatisfaction among voters and even among new generations of Gen Z voters in Utah. And even if you look down just at Latter-day Saints, they are less likely to identify as a Republican, but at the end of the day, they're still just as likely to vote for the Republican. And so it seems like there may be things in the culture or even new generations coming up in the Trump era of politics where Utahns and Latter-day Saints, they may feel less of a strong affinity for the Republican Party overall. But again, at the end of the day, I think there is a strong tribal element where if they have to pick between two choices, which is what our political system typically offers us, they're going to pick the one that they feel most comfortable with.
Brigham, let me have you explain or tell our listeners also about the third question that I'm reading here, and that is, would you like to see a new political party in the United States? And Utah and U.S. voters chimed in on that. And then if you would like another U.S. party, what would that new party be? Tell our listeners about those findings, because I thought those were really interesting.
Yeah, and so 39% of U.S. voters said they would like to see a new major political party. So this was a little bit stronger of a question than one that is typically asked, which is, would you consider ever voting for a third party? This is saying, do you want a third adequate or viable alternative to the Republican and Democratic parties? And then an even greater percentage of Utah voters said the same. That was about 43%. And then we asked that subset, so this is getting to a smaller sample size, a bigger margin of error, but because it was so consistent across all U.S. voters and Utah voters, I think it's significant. We asked this subset of voters who wanted a new major political party what they wanted it to look like. And in both cases, a plurality, or the largest share of that subset of voters, said they want a more moderate or centrist party to exist. And that was about 36 or 37% across both groups, U.S. and Utah voters. And then you saw between 1/5 and 1/4 of voters wanting a more progressive or more conservative option. And so you can see those maybe as being some of the maybe primary voting base who wish that the party was more pure or adhered more closely to the party platform, or maybe more ideological in some ways. But it seems like the largest share of people who want a new party would like to see something that brings down the temperature. And it is interesting, in some of my conversations with these sources that felt this way, they said that they would even be open to seeing more, quote unquote, backroom compromises, which is such a dirty word in today's politics, but they think right. that is how you actually get policy that responds to the needs of maybe the political so-called normies or the people in the middle, is to have these kinds of compromises that are far away from the cameras of cable news or, social media.
Thanks for joining us, Brigham. Fascinating poll and great article. That was Brigham Tomko from the Deseret News, and you should check his article out. When we come back, the Supreme Court handed down decisions yesterday. One of them dealt with maybe a final blow to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. We'll discuss what that means when we come back.
We want to talk about SOTA Diet and Nutrition. SOTA stands for state of the art. And Andy and I both let go of massive amounts of weight. You more than me.
70 pounds in 5 months.
And I did 37 pounds in 3 months. And what worked for me was so many things. Talking to a nutritionist every week and having her tell me what to eat. I can do as I'm told.
Yeah.
But I have no clue where to begin.
And I needed the help too. It's just food. There's no pills, no injections. So you learn how to both let go of the weight and then how to keep it off.
So SOTA Diet and Nutrition is a great place to start. But if you started with pills or medications and you find yourself starting to gain some weight back, SOTA Diet and Nutrition is a great way to learn how to have a new relationship with food to go into the future.
You can talk with a nutritionist by calling 866-800-SOTA, S-O-T-A, or you can go to their website, sotadietandnutrition.com.
Join now and your partner joins for free. 2 people, real accountability for the price of 1.
Join us for a short time to have results that last a lifetime.
Running a small business means juggling a lot. Your network has to handle it all. That's where a fiber-only provider falls short. You need a partner who gives you a greater advantage. Introducing the Total Solutions Advantage only from Comcast Business. A first-ever combination of the largest, fastest fiber-powered network, the most reliable Wi-Fi, gig speeds with equipment and security included, and a 5-year price lock. Plus, it's all backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. The Total Solutions Advantage only from Comcast Business. A new standard for small business with reliability, security, and savings in one. Switch today. Get started with a great offer as low as $60 a month. When you add it all up, no one does business like Comcast Business.
Offer ends 6/1/26. New customers only. Requires 300 megabits per second internet and security edge. 1-year agreement, eco-bill, and autopay required. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. Most reliable Wi-Fi based on Open Signal Awards USA Fixed Broadband Experience Report, May 2025.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRANGER, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit info kit. 800-290-7100. That's 800-290-7100.
1-877 Cards for Kids. KARS Cards for Kids. 1-877 Cards for Kids. Donate your card today.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Ready to get rid of that old car? Donate it to Cars for Kids. Call 877 Cars for Kids to speak to a friendly live agent. Donation is super easy, and your car can be picked up as soon as tomorrow. Go to carsforkids.org now or call 877 Cars for Kids to donate your car today.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids.
Did you know you can donate real estate too? Go to carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
We talked about this a little bit yesterday, Jim, but the Supreme Court handed down a ruling. Actually, it was like 8 o'clock yesterday. We were trying to read it and do our show at the same time. That really limits the power of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And we've had a number of Supreme Court decisions that have come down over the last several years that have, I think, systematically done away more and more and more with the Voting Rights Act. Of course, we have the 15th Amendment, which provided that you can't discriminate based on color and exclude certain races from voting. And then because we felt like some states weren't complying with that particularly well, we passed the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which codified it much more. The Supreme Court has done some things that have kind of done away with that. Let me just read, before we get to our guest, a couple of statements. Now, Alito says this. He wrote he was obviously the Republican appointed justice. I hate to say that, but that's what it is. He wrote for the majority opinion. He says, interpreting Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act to allow a map solely because it fails to provide a sufficient number of majority-minority districts would create a right in the amendment, that's the 15th Amendment, that doesn't protect. An interpretation would run headlong with the Act's express disclaimer against racial proportionality. In other words, he's saying you're doing just the opposite of what you're trying to do. And Justice Kagan, who wrote the dissent, says, today's ruling is part of a set. For a decade, this court has set its sight on the Voting Rights Act. And then she goes on and on to say, basically, we've kind of done away with the Voting Rights Act. So, it's interesting to see what's happened with that. But we do have a guest with us this morning. Do we have Kelsey Dallas with us?
Yep.
Oh, well, thank you. You're not written into our script, but I know you're here. So tell us about this opinion, what happened, and maybe some of the basic fallout from it.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest cases of the current term, and it was somewhat shocking that it came out yesterday morning because, as you might have discussed, the court was hearing argument on the Trump administration's effort to scale back the temporary protected status program, and so it was already going to be a big argument day, and it somewhat seems like the justices typically try to avoid the chaos of releasing a big opinion on a big argument day. But it wasn't to be yesterday. It was a very busy one for us here at SCOTUS Blog. You articulated sort of the key details of the decision already. I will just say from the top that if it seems confusing, that's because this is a very difficult area of the law. And even reading our expert analysis from Amy Howe on SCOTUSblog.com, it's difficult to articulate what exactly Alito was saying in the majority opinion and then how Kagan was pushing back against it. But the way I would put it is courts have often applied Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act to force changes to a congressional map that are made with race in mind. So it's not that there's meant to be racial discrimination. It's just that the map that's being produced is specifically looking to adjust the majority-minority districts in order to sort of have a bigger impact of votes from a minority group. And what Alito is saying is that that in itself is a form of discrimination, that you can't sort of go into the map-making process and say, I want to have all of these votes from Black voters have extra oomph by giving them a new district or something like that. The complaint from the Democratic-appointed justices in that dissent from Justice Elena Kagan is that by changing how you look at race in the redistricting process, the court has completely muted whatever impact the Voting Rights Act had. Now it's only going to apply to the most explicit forms of racial discrimination where someone involved in the map drawing is saying, you know, I don't like Black people and I don't want their vote to count. Like, that's where you might still have a lawsuit under the VRA. But in Kagan's view, you'd almost never be able to bring a challenge under other circumstances where, in her view, Black voters are still suffering because of the map that's been produced.
Well, I'm somewhat confused as well, but one of the things I'm more interested in is what are the practical effects of what's going to happen? Are we going to see massive redrawing of congressional districts that are going to exclude Black representatives?
A massive, maybe in the long run, so looking more towards 2028. In the short term, several states that might have been in a position to adjust their maps maybe already started early voting or, in fact, had a primary already. Last night, news broke that Louisiana, which was the state at the center of this ruling, is planning to postpone elections that were going to start this weekend because they're hoping to put a new map in place. So you'll see sort of just a reigniting of this redistricting wave that was already taking place. Now, again, it's complicated to apply this ruling because it's not in other states besides Louisiana, the court wasn't pointing at their map and saying, you must change this. That it just sort of gives legislators more options if they were to choose to redistrict because they're not as vulnerable to this particular type of Voting Rights Act challenge.
And Kelsey, maybe you can help me with this, but reading between the lines or maybe even following the lines of Alito, he seems to be saying, this is the majority opinion, that the Voting Rights Act has worked great. And we have Black senators, we have Black congressmen, and we had a Black president. We don't need it anymore because we don't need to force states to district to make things fair because whatever we've done has worked. And Kagan is saying, you're right, it has. But if you throw it out, we may go back to what was happening before. I mean, maybe I'm being much too simplistic, but I sort of see that argument in both of their opinions.
I agree that is an element in this decision, and that actually follows a thread of decisions, including the case on affirmative action, where the court was saying, we are revisiting this in a cultural moment that's very different from when the court had in the past addressed that topic. And so, yes, there is an element of that in Alito's opinion that says these conversations about congressional maps need to look at our present moment, not about the situation in the 1960s where discrimination was rampant. Justice Kagan was making this point that it's not for the Supreme Court to survey the land and say, oh, we're doing so well on race relations. Like, in her mind, that is a job for Congress to do and to say, okay, we're going to change the language of the Voting Rights Act. We feel good about where we are as a country. And so I think Kagan's frustration was that the justices in the majority perhaps were making it sound like they were in a place to assess the state of race in the country.
Well, you know, here in Utah, we're still dealing with the fallout of Proposition 4, which was essentially an attempt to get rid of gerrymandering, which the Republicans were doing in order to be able to exclude Democrats, whereas the Voting Rights Act talks about, essentially says gerrymandering for a good cause to make sure that you're not excluding minority voters is all right. And I'm sort of torn in that I would love to see a world where we're not gerrymandering at all, but I don't have any idea how we get there. Do you see a tension between those two kinds of things?
I was thinking of Utah's battle as I read Alito's opinion yesterday, because part of what he was saying is that it's complicated to tease out when a map is the product of race-based discrimination versus when it is the product of partisan gerrymandering. And the court has said, like, we're not going to interfere with that type of political analysis where the party in charge is trying to increase its chances of getting additional congressional seats. And so Alito has this really interesting explanation of how you might accuse them of looking at race when really they were just looking at the concentration of Democrats, and maybe several of those Democrats were non-white. So that debate, that current debate about states pushing for gerrymandering in order to increase a political party's chances of having a seat, is certainly playing a role here. And it now, Alito is saying that if you're going to challenge a map based on racial motives, you have to control for party affiliation. You have to say this party affiliation piece played no role here. It really was just about race.
All right, that was very helpful. Thank you both. Kelsey, that was Kelsey Dallas, managing editor of SCOTUS. And Jim, I have to say that you two both explained it in ways better than I did. So it is confusing, but I think it makes a lot of sense, especially when we deal with gerrymandering here and all the things that are going on there. Well, guess what I got last week? I got a new motorcycle, and guess what we're about to talk about? 2025 was one of the deadliest years on record for motorcyclists in the state of Utah. So, honey, my wife, if you're listening, please turn off the radio for just 15 minutes. We're going to talk with Lieutenant Roden from the UHP when we come back.
Radio. I'm Reagan Edelman. KSL's top local story this hour. The University of Utah has decreased its water usage by millions of gallons over the last 10 years, but students say it's not enough. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
Students came together on Wednesday asking for the university to lead out on water conservation. In 2015, the university was named as the highest municipal consumer of water, but since then they've cut back by 55 gallons, according to the Daily Utah Chronicle. Last year, the Associated Students of the University of Utah passed an endorsement asking the university to create a publicly available dashboard to show where the water is being used, but this still hasn't happened. A spokesperson with the U says they are working to republish a sustainability dashboard in May that will include monthly water use. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The weekly unemployment numbers are out.
The peak in weekly initial filings for unemployment benefits came at the height of the pandemic, when 6 million applications were submitted. By November of 2021, a recovery was underway, but weekly claims have remained above 200,000 for nearly 4 years. With companies focused on retaining employees rather than laying them off, the figure plummeted last week to 189,000.
ABC's Jim Ryan reporting. Your money at this moment. The Dow is up 730 points, and the S&P is up 50 points, and the NASDAQ is up 127 points. Coming up, springtime weather today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31 a.m.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
At Uline, they know going the extra mile takes hard work. For companies pushing to go further, Uline will go the distance with you. 24/7, they answer the phone to get you the shipping and industrial supplies you need. Business can move fast. Unexpected large orders, adverse weather, new safety guidelines, and changing economic trends. Uline works hard keeping 41,000 items ready to ship, minimizing detours on your way to the extra mile. Visit uline.com.
Ready for your next vehicle? At Performance Automotive in Bountiful, your new Ford, Toyota, or Honda is here. Built for Utah communities, canyon weekends, and everything in between. Choose capability with Ford, long-lasting reliability with Toyota, or smooth efficiency with Honda. Backed by friendly experts and financing options that fit your budget. Visit Performance Ford, Performance Toyota, and Performance Honda for your test drive. Browse inventory, check pricing, and schedule your visit at performancebountiful.com. Performance Automotive in Bountiful, driven to be the best.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-979-3535. That's 800-979-3535. 800-979-3535.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. Here's Ricky Meese.
Good speeds and no problems on the Valley freeways. We do have a report of a crash 2100 south at 6th East. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers, all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 64 and a low of 41 today, but temperatures will head up as we go into the weekend. By Sunday, we'll have a high of 78 degrees. Right now, it's partly cloudy and 55 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Reagan Edelman from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Okay, so Jim, this is not a happy stat, but last year, 72 motorcyclists died on Utah roads, making it the deadliest year in Utah history. I mean, this is something, of course, I've owned motorcycles continually since I was 15, and it's something my wife has said, you know, you're getting old, you don't need motorcycles anymore. But I still like to keep one around just to kind of play with it once in a while. But they're dangerous. I mean, and you know, we used to ride together. She used to go on trips with me. We'd go every fall a trip down to southern Utah, went to all the national parks, just had the greatest time. Never fell, never had an issue, well, never had a problem. But we had so many close calls that she finally said, we have dodged the bullet too many times. You know, we've had too many cars.
Don't press
get
your luck.
Really close where you could literally kick them away from you, and other situations that came up while we were doing that. And she's like, you know, she'd prefer I not have one, but it's been, you know, I just love them. I enjoy the feel of them. I like riding with them. And you know, the best motorcycle. If you ever want to watch a motorcyclist at their best, watch Highway Patrol Troopers. Watch UHP. I go on rides with those men and women, and they are incredible. And so we're lucky to have with us Lieutenant Cameron Roden, who's actually been a friend of the show before from the Utah Highway Patrol. Lieutenant, thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, what could you tell us about these deaths? 72 motorcyclists died last year. And I'm going to ask you this is sort of a two-part question. How many of these were preventable, and maybe break it down by the motorcyclist and by others?
Yeah, you know, a good majority of those motorcycle crashes are preventable crashes. Just looking at the breakdown, like you mentioned, the ones involving just a motorcyclist, no other vehicles involved, that they account for close to 40 to 50%, and then the other half is multi-vehicles are involved, a motorcycle and a car or a truck or anything like that. And so when you look at the statistics, you have to kind of look at both separately to be able to know how to address the issue. And when you look at motorcyclists specifically by themselves, the statistics show that the leading contributors to crashes are, following too closely, failure to stay within your lane, just things that as a motorcyclist, just a little bit of complacency, like you said, can lead to a situation that could be very dangerous. And then when you start looking at multi-vehicles involved, it's vehicles that are not yielding the right-of-way to a motorcycle, a vehicle turning left in front of an approaching motorcycle, or a motorcycle in a blind spot. So we have to work together. It's not just hey, motorcyclists have to do something different, or other motorists have to do something different. Both sides have to come together to really make a difference, because we really don't want to repeat 2025. That's not a good record to set.
Well, what was there anything about 2025 that made that uniquely dangerous? What was it that made that worse than years before?
Actually, it's ironic because we actually were doing really well at the beginning of the year. We came into the July timeframe a little bit down, so we were really encouraged, and then we really had a rough end of the summer where they really started to get and we've had a lighter winter, and so we've had a little bit of an extended riding season. Riders were able to ride longer, and even this year we've had riders that are able to ride longer and enjoy the scenery. There's no better way to enjoy Utah than from a motorcycle, and so that's going to play a factor. But just looking at all those different factors causing those crashes, it just shows that we need to do better.
Lieutenant Roden, Utah is one of several states that don't require a helmet use on a motorcycle. And I'm going to ask you this. I assume it's safe to say that 72 number would be somewhat less if people were always wearing helmets. But do you advise, and I think I know the answer to this as well, that people wear helmets whether it's the law or not?
Oh, 100%. Helmets do so much. Gear is a big factor in preventing fatalities. But so to go back on that, though, a helmet is required if you're under the age of 21. We had quite a few of our fatalities last year, teen riders that were involved in these fatal crashes. So if you are under 21, you are required to wear a helmet. Over 21, we still recommend that because a motorcyclist has so fewer protections around them than other motorists do. They have the structure of the car and seatbelts and things like that, whereas a motorcyclist does not have those things. So if you're involved in a crash, your risk goes up significantly.
We've got time for one more question, Lieutenant Roden. You said gear. Besides the helmet, what do you think makes a lot of sense for our riders to be wearing?
So looking at other things that was a surprise for us too, out of the fatal crashes, 75% of those did not have a motorcycle endorsement. So they didn't have training or anything like that. Fewer than 10% even had any type of training. Training is going to be another thing that's crucial in conjunction with the gear in order to help keep motorcyclists safe.
All right, that was Lieutenant Cameron Roden from the UHP, and I agree with everything he said. And by the way, these UHP riders are the best in the country when it comes to riding motorcycles. But we do have some breaking news. We are learning right now, and you corrected me earlier, Jim, but the House has voted on the DHS funding bill. They have passed it. It's a historic vote. We thought there was going to be, from our conversation earlier, we thought there was going to be some tension there and that we were going to have some problems, but it looks like it's passed.
Yeah, it looks like it went through.
And so what happened was, if you recall, the Department of Homeland Security was one of the few government organizations that hadn't been funded. They were waiting for some funding. It's been really a very long time. It was something like 2 months. Some parts of that agency were funded. Again, I think that we had TSA that was out of funding for a while, but they were funded. I think ICE and Border Patrol, Customs and Border Patrol were, because of obvious reasons, there's some concern with what's going on there that they would not be funded, but it looks like they now have been. That's going to the president's desk, and I would assume that he's going to be 100% on board with that.
Yeah, I think he kind of needs a political win at the moment. I think he's going to celebrate this as much as he possibly can.
Yeah, so we thought after when we first talked about this, Jim, that there was going to be some argument and that there were some parts of it that were going to be tweaked or changed. So that went quickly. And I think it's because of something we heard during when we talked about this earlier, that if it didn't pass today, they were going on recess tomorrow, and so it was going to be a while before they did that. So maybe they thought, let's strike while the iron's hot, and let's get this before the House and get something passed.
No, I think a deadline does a great deal to focus your attention, particularly politically.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know how the vote came down and what happened. We're just seeing that it did pass. The House has passed the DHS funding bill. That means that and I may be wrong, and somebody will correct me, that the government is 100% up and running, and it hasn't been for some time, although it was just a small part of the government that was down. But it was the Department of Homeland Security, which is, maybe having some new person in charge there instead of Kristi Noem brought some people to the table and thought, you know what, maybe things are getting better now. Is it Markwayne
Mullen.
Yeah, who's taken over that, and he's been less vocal, less out in the public, and maybe a little more contrite and willing to work with the Democrats. At least he seemed that way in his confirmation hearing. Good for him and good for them that we got together on something that probably required some support from the Democrats to get done. Maybe not, but it did get done.
Well, I'd love to see the vote totals on that. But I know that, for instance, the Secret Service were not funded, and yet they were also being paid. They were finding all kinds of workarounds to make sure that people were still being paid, and these essential services were not just, freezing up while the funding wasn't there.
Yeah, there were some agencies that weren't paid, and you have to think that Homeland Security, if in fact they weren't, and we don't know the answer to that, usually when they fund something, they backdate it to say, okay, we'll take care of you. But it would be hard for some people to just go 60 days without a paycheck, even though the check's in the mail, you're going to get it eventually. But that had to be rough on some families who were sitting back going, well, are we going to? And I think a lot of people quit departments, went and got other jobs doing other things because you can't just wait for the government to get its act together.
Well, my wife used to work for the VA hospital as a physical therapist, and she.
Oh yeah.
And that. There were government shutdowns back then, and we just kind of bit the bullet and survived, and she always got back pay.
Yeah. Well, good news. That's very good news. And here's some bad news. A Utah peach farmer has said he's lost his entire crop based on the recent cold snap, and his community rallied behind him. And this is a silver lining you wouldn't believe. We're going to talk about that when we come back.
Come see what all the buzz is about at Utah's oldest Volkswagen dealer, Strong Volkswagen. New Jetta are just $158 a month during Volkswagen Driver Days. At Strong Volkswagen, lease new 2026 Jetta S just $158 a month. $158. Even new Tiguan, $233 a month. $233. And the roomy, family-ready Atlas, just $350 a month. Atlas comes standard with heated seats, heated steering wheel, keyless start, and third-row seating. They're selling fast with 0% financing for 60 months. And you get a lifetime warranty. Lifetime, no charge. Make a beeline for German engineering and a new lineup that's creating all the buzz. New Jetta, $158 a month. New Tiguan, $233 a month during Volkswagen Driver Days at Strong. Strong Volkswagen, driven by transparency, built on family, powered by people who care. For over 70 years, Strong Volkswagen, located downtown. StrongVW.com. StrongVW.com. For details, call 801-596-2200.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 18 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 30, 60, or 90 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com/contests.
This Mother's Day, skip the flower bouquet that wilts by Wednesday and give Mom something she'll really love all season long. Living flowers are the perfect gift that keeps on giving. While cut flowers fade in just a few days, a beautiful hanging basket, stunning container garden, or a colorful set of flowers for her garden beds will bring her joy every single morning she steps outside. Now that's a gift worth giving. This is Brian with Olson's Greenhouse, and my family has been growing flowers with love and care for over 80 years. Right now, we're loading up your local garden center with tons of flowers, just in time for Mother's Day. Gorgeous hanging baskets, bold container plantings, and everything Mom needs to create the yard she's been dreaming of. Give Mom the gift of living color this Mother's Day, because she deserves blooms that last. Follow us on Instagram for ideas and inspiration, and find your local garden center that carries plants from Olson's at OGG.com. That's OGG.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens.
Gold demand is skyrocketing to record highs. As more Americans rush to preserve their savings, will there be enough gold? I'm Dr. Ron Paul, and I believe physical gold is the only way to truly protect your 401k or IRA savings. Gold offers tangible security that can't be tracked, stolen, or inflated. That's why I strongly advocate for gold IRAs. To learn more, text the word SECURE to 989898 now. Birch Gold Group will send you a free info kit on gold IRAs. Birch Gold is the only gold company I trust, and their thousands of great reviews prove I'm not alone. So don't wait another second. Protect your retirement savings today and see how easy it is to move your IRA or 401k into physical precious metals. Text SECURE to the number 989898 for your free Gold IRA Info Kit. Again, SECURE to 989898.
Message and data rates may apply.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Ballard Spahr is a national law firm with 19 offices and 750 attorneys across the country, and it has been serving Salt Lake City since 1987. Litigation partner in the Salt Lake City office, Melanie Vardabedian, joins us with more.
At Ballard Spahr, we partner closely with our clients as trusted business advisors. For example, our Utah Employment Law Update and Economic Outlook has, for 14 years, been a valued resource for Utah employers. It helps employers understand what to watch and how to stay ahead. In 2025, we had the pleasure of hosting more than 100 attendees. As Salt Lake City's business community has grown, so have we. We represent manufacturers, technology companies, startups, financial institutions, developers, and other regional and national businesses. Our Utah lawyers handle business-critical matters related to intellectual property, real estate, and construction. My work involves complex commercial and consumer financial services litigation, securities litigation, and real estate disputes. From the Great Salt Lake to the Silicon Slopes, we have our clients' interests in mind. Learn more about us at ballardspahr.com.
Now in its fourth decade of serving clients in Utah and beyond, Ballard Spahr's Salt Lake City office plays a key role in supporting the state's economic growth. Its work with businesses helps strengthen Utah's economy. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Inside Sources.
Well, we had an early spring. Obviously, we had a terrible winter. We got really warm for a while, and then we had this recent cold snap. And Chris Healy, who's the operations manager of Manning Orchards in Fruit Heights, said that they lost their entire stock of pears.
And that's our main thing is peaches. We do some cherries, those are frozen. We do some apricots, those are frozen. We do some apples, those are frozen. We do some pears, those are frozen. So it's across the board. Everything's frozen for us this year.
It's just hard to imagine. I mean, and you know, we talked to somebody on the program. I think he was up in the Fruit Heights area, but we had a guest with us last week, Jim, from Brigham City, Box Elder County. The same thing. Their apple crop just went. I mean, it was gone. It was completely gone.
Oh, that's terrible.
But there's some good news, and so we have KSL News Radio's Cam Elliott joining us. Cam, KSL News reporter.
Well, I'll tell you the good news. It's so after I spoke to Chris Healy, I was crushed. I was crushed right alongside him. He told me the night that cold snap came, he was sitting in bed and he felt like he had been punched in the gut. That's what he told me. And we talked about this. He said, "Oh, well, I'm going to have to get a third job if this doesn't work out. I'm going to have to support the farm, my family, pay all these bills over the winter." But after that story came out, and after something went out on the KSL News Radio website, and his community heard about it, because I asked him, I said, "Do you have a GoFundMe or some method with people can help you?" And he said, "I'm not really the type to ask for help like that."
Right.
A real cowboy, this one.
Yeah, right.
And one of his neighbors heard, and they started a GoFundMe, and the ball got rolling, and I want to say right now it's just about $53,000 has been raised for Manning Orchards. No, it's really incredible. And I admit I was on the edge of my seat. I kept checking this GoFundMe just because it was so exciting to see, something good happen to a person who really needed, a little bit of a miracle. And I spoke to him a couple of days ago, and I think you have some audio for that. Let's hear what it sounds like now.
Yeah, as we know, the bills don't stop, even though the fruit did. And yeah, with their support, I'll be able to take care of all the winter bills that come along with owning and maintaining property and property taxes, water, lease payments. And I'll be able to take care of all that without having to get a third job.
Good for you. I mean, this is awesome, Cam. I mean, because we did talk to some of these orchard owners, and it was just tragic. I mean, because it's their job. That's what they count on. That's where they are. And there were a lot of other people affected by this. For example, they were bringing in some migrant workers to come in on a short-term basis to help pick the crops. Those people couldn't come. They couldn't even come in from Mexico, even though they had lawful rights to be here. I mean, their families. It's just that's amazing. So where is this? I don't know how.
This is up in Fruit Heights.
No. Where's the site? If somebody wanted to give.
If somebody wanted to give, there's a story about it on KSL News Radio. You can find it under the weather in Utah local weather section, and it's it'll be linked right there. The GoFundMe. It's really amazing to see this happen. This farm, of course, has been, or this orchard, I should say, for technicality's sake, has been in his family for over 100 years. It's all been family run. His father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather before him, they've all been running it. And he said with help and with the continued support of the community, and hopefully if nothing like this ever happens again, he'll be able to pass it down to his son, and so on and so forth. It's really amazing to see. And, this is one of the last remaining major orchards in Fruit Heights. He told me he wants to keep the fruit in Fruit Heights, of course.
That's where the name came from, isn't it?
I would expect so.
Certainly.
I would.
Yeah, Fruit Heights, I think that's like sort of the west, north area of Weber County, as I recall.
As far as I'm aware, I think you're right.
I'm probably wrong, but I drive by it all the time when I see Fruit Heights. But anyway, I mean, that's exciting news. This is Jim, this is a problem throughout the state, and I'm so happy for this person. I'm hoping that other groups can get together. I hope that other parts of the community can get together in Box Elder County and in Utah County and in Wasatch County, other areas that have been affected by this, because these farmers, these orchard growers, I mean, that's their livelihood. That's how they're going to get by for the next year.
Well, yeah, and how many of these are people that we don't know about who are suffering from similar kinds of losses?
Well, actually, like you said, the Manning Orchard is not the only orchard that this happened to. I think I saw all red orchards lost their entire stock. I saw that it's connected to another large orchard in closer to Genola.
That's the one we talked to.
That's the one you talked to.
A week ago, right, exactly, down by Utah Lake.
They're not doing so hot. I mean, it's a lot of people who have been really struck by this, and like you said, I mean, it's not been an easy year for farmers to begin with. So this is really, this is a kick that they did not need.
It's interesting because, Cam, you mentioned that he was reluctant to even accept, you said, hey, maybe we could hook you up, and he's like, nah, I got this. But now he is going to be compensated. He is going to get some compensation.
Well, I'll tell you, this is a big shout out to Chris Healy, the operations manager. He is just the picture of the Utah farmer. He is, he's a hardworking guy, and he said to me, he was like, look, if this means that I have to get a third job, he's got 2 full-time jobs right now, and he was speaking to me before he went in for another 12-hour shift. He said, look, if I need to get a third job to keep this farm afloat, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And, I listened to this, and as a guy who likes to get off work and lay on his couch and couldn't even think about a second job, I'm like, all right, I got to help this.
Right.
Yeah. But, no, the peaches this year, unfortunately, this does mean that you won't be as...
Were they all lost? Are they all gone?
It sounds like he lost virtually everything.
He lost every single one. When I spoke to him on the phone a couple of weeks ago, he told me that there was not a single peach in the orchard that wasn't just black at the center. And, a lot of other orchards said the same thing. I think he spoke to a couple of other orchards who said, the minimum loss was about 75% of their crop. Now, I haven't spoken to all of them. I've spoken to a couple of them, though, and the general consensus is if you're out and you're looking for peaches this year, good luck. And if you do find them, you better be ready to open your wallet.
Pay a little more, right?
Yeah, because, they're few and far between.
Well, that winter, I work on the ski patrol, so we knew very well what was going on, and everybody did it also, but it ended early, and it got warm really quickly, and we were having heat in March that we usually would wait for May to get, and so blossoms are coming out. And I'm thinking the same thing, Cam. I'm thinking, be careful. I mean, we're getting this great early season blossoms, and trees are coming out, and all we need is a cold snap to come untimely, and it came, middle of April, and whacked everything.
Yeah, that's exactly what Chris told me, is because that warm-up came so early, it actually, if we hadn't had this cold snap, we would have maybe had a historical season for peaches. He said that the size of I think they were called peachlets, that's just after they've blossomed, The size of these peachlets indicated that they were going to have effectively just a fantastic yield. And he said it was maybe the difference of a week. If they had had a week longer to grow a little more, to steel themselves against the cold, then we would have had an excellent peach season. But he said we were a week off, and we were about 2 degrees too cold. And that's all it takes to just wipe the whole orchard.
All right. Well, that was Cam Elliott, KSL's Peachlet, and thank you for joining us today, Cam. And good work. And I hope other people can take a look at that. Well, Jim, that was a good show today. We're almost out of time, but I need to ask a favor, and that is, can you be back tomorrow, or did I scare you off?
You did not scare me off. You can't get rid of me.
Okay, good, because you've been a good fill-in. And what I like about you is you have a lot to say, you have a lot to offer, and you have the most beautiful voice. Which I guess goes to why you sing, why you're part of the choir.
Well, if you need me to sing tomorrow, we'll see what happens.
We might do that, part of the movie show. Yeah, so join us tomorrow when we come back. We'll be here at 9 o'clock a.m. But before we when we come back today, don't go away yet. A new study shows that Salt Lake homeless camps may not prove to be as effective as the city hoped. Marie